And away we go on a Football Friday. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. And if you're watching us on Big 12 Studios, available at big12studios.com, the shot looks a bit empty because I'm in studio alone by myself today. Well, not by myself, but we've got Taman Turner and Will Connerly producing today. But James is joining us remote in what appears to be sort of a hostage-type video. James, are you okay? Can you give us signs? Is everything okay?
Everything's fine.
Good.
I'm settled. And this morning, I couldn't help but notice that you woke up this morning and you chose violence. Ari's been very mean to me behind the scenes for the last half hour as we get settled. And so I think it's a projection from just how much you're missing me in studio there with you today.
Yes.
But I'm sure that everything's going to be fine. We'll get through it.
So, James, I don't think it's a coincidence. James lands in Salt Lake City, and I don't know, within an hour, couple hours, Utah loses a game in basketball to Cal Poly. So, Utah fans upset about the Utes. The running Utes lost last night. Direct your complaints towards James Westling, who lands in your city and then immediately has your team as a 15-point favorite lose to Cal Poly. But no, James is in Salt Lake because he's going to be calling the BYU-Wisconsin game later this afternoon, right?
Correct. The game is at 2 o'clock local Mountain Time, so 3 o'clock Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. They're playing the game at the Delta Center, which is right across the street from our hotel, home of the Jazz. And this game was initially going to be an evening game. They had to move it up, so it's a little bit weird that it's a Friday afternoon basketball game, but I love it. I love afternoon basketball.
Let's get weird, right?
Let's get weird.
Let's get weird. It's a weird time of year. Great to have you with us today and every day in your home for the Big 12 Conference. Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and streaming live at Big 12 Studios. This is a Football Friday, and we are hitting the home stretch here, James. I mean, Thanksgiving next week. We've got, week 13 of the college football season. This is when things really ramp up. So it's in many ways an off week for the Big 10 and the SEC. I mean, the Big 12 and ACC are front and center in terms of the most premier matchups. I mean, this is cupcake week for the SEC, and the Big 10 doesn't really have any premier matchups this weekend. So it's really, there's Pitt and Georgia Tech, and then what we have in the Big 12, including the highlight of BYU and Cincinnati.
Well, and Dave Bartu that joined us yesterday, I thought painted a pretty clear picture for even if these SEC teams do get upset, even if one team ends up with one more loss than maybe they're anticipating the rest of the way, the Big 12 is still going to need quite a bit of help to get more than one team in the field. And I know that's somewhat disappointing to hear, but I still don't think that it's completely out of the question, because this time of year you do get crazy upsets, and you do get a South Carolina that had Texas A&M on the ropes last Saturday. So for me, I look at the slate in the Big 12 and nationally and see, okay, where are some potential, teams that have the firepower to knock off one of these big dogs that nobody sees coming this late in the year.
We'll be previewing the games on the show today. Plus, joining us in about 25 minutes is Ross Dellinger, senior writer for Yahoo Sports and for On3. We'll get into a really interesting interview that Sam Kahn from The Athletic had with the GM of Texas Tech, James Blanchard. Plus, we're also talking with Jason Scheer from Wildcat Authority about the Arizona game, Arizona hosting Baylor this weekend. Last night, James, some friends, we were invited to a friend's house who was cooking hibachi for a group. So I had a blast last night with, even in the rain, with some friends cooking hibachi. But at one point during the night, one of my friends decided that he wanted to play a game of television theme song trivia. So basically he would, and this guy's knowledge, I am now understanding, stretches far and wide from 70s, 80s, and 90s sitcoms. And so he was just plugging in different shows from those periods of time and having us guess what the theme song is, which I can't imagine you would have done much better than me, and I did not do very well. I'm just making assumptions about you and your ability to identify songs and how they would be for intro songs. Like, I would sing the song but then not remember what show it was from. But, there were some bangers, man. You think about some of these old sitcoms. Like, did you ever watch the show Small Wonder?
No.
Do you even know what that's about?
No. Double no.
So Small Wonder was a show about a dad of a family who basically invents this robot girl, and so she's like the sister to the boy in the family that was invented by the dad, but she's also a robot, and so she does craziness ensues. That's a pretty wild show and very futuristic, despite it being in the 80s. Silver Spoons. Did you ever watch that one, James?
No. Double no. Triple
Wow.
no.
Growing Pains.
I've heard of Growing Pains, but I don't think I watched it.
Wow. Did you have a TV growing up?
I watched television on the radio. So these aren't like these aren't the classics. It sounds like you guys went pretty deep into the vault.
That's what I'm saying.
Some of these
My friend Kurt has just this deep and wide knowledge of shows that were just bringing me back. So what you're saying? We did some obscure ones. Which ones do stand out to you? Which are the ones that you recollect the most?
I mean, I think of like Seinfeld and Friends and Cheers and Family Matters.
Family Matters.
Part of the TGIF lineup. That was a banger. Full House. Like, those are all front and center in terms of.
Do you remember the Full House theme song?
Yeah, of course. I would need to hear it. But, yeah, I could pick those 5 shows like a needle out of a haystack. Easy peasy.
Whatever happened to predictability? I just want you to sing a little bit. Just give us whatever happened to predict. You remember that song? You know what I'm talking about. You got
I remember
it. Go
the
ahead.
song. Did you know? So my sister lives in San Francisco, like a block from the Painted Ladies.
Oh. What's that?
Yeah. Those are the 4 houses from that opening scene.
Got it.
When they're playing the theme song.
Those are called the Painted Ladies?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, they're very famous. Very big tourist attraction.
Some of these shows,
very big deal.
Some of these shows too, the premise, it's like insane, like the Full House premise. How about? Do you remember the show Who's the Boss with Tony Danza?
Yes. Remember Who's the Boss?
Like, the premise of that show was, here's this dude that shows up to this house in a van, and the parents are like, "Come on in. Why don't you take care of our kids?" And that's what happens.
Sitcoms, reality TV was unhinged back in the 90s.
I mean, they had what was the show with Gary Coleman where he came and like was adopted by a family and he lived with them. And then at the same time that show was out, what was that show called? Why am I forgetting what it was called? Oh, Different Strokes. Different Strokes.
Yeah.
They also had another show called Webster on a different network at the same time that featured basically the exact same premise. Think about that. 2 shows, 2 different networks, same premise. Same
That's
exact
amazing.
premise.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Well, this morning, Ari, I'm super disappointed that we didn't get to kick off the show with our morning roast. And even if I was in studio with you there, I don't think I would have a leg to stand on because the shirt you're wearing today is baller.
Yeah, this is for K-High, which is, thank you, the one shot. Let me get the mic out of the way so I can really let people see it.
Yeah, let people see it.
There
This
we
is
go.
a high school team from Alaska. Ari went on an Alaska
Ketchikan
cruise.
High School for the Ketchikan Kings in Ketchikan, Alaska. They are the King Salmons, and so today I'm proudly wearing a Ketchikan High School shirt. This is, if you can notice, the logo of Ketchikan High, the Kings, is a king salmon wearing a crown. And my friend Nick, who was our guide, he's a science teacher at Ketchikan High School, and he sent me this. So shout out to Nick and everybody at Ketchikan High School in Ketchikan, Alaska, and the Ketchikan High School Kings, the K-High Kings. Shout out to them.
That is so baller. Man, that's right up there with like Banana Slugs and Blue Hose and the Delta State Fighting Okra, another favorite of mine. Don't forget the Campbell Fighting Camels.
Some good
Or
ones. But nobody beats the king salmon because Ketchikan, Alaska is like the home of the king salmon. So it's perfect. Like maybe the Fighting Okra, I don't know how well okra is produced in wherever the Fighting Okra are, but it's just like the perfect nickname for the perfect situation.
Yeah, that would be Delta State. They are a green vegetable with attitude. And then also This is one I just discovered this morning. The Rhode Island School of Design, NADS. Yes,
Wow.
they are the NADS.
I didn't realize
Which means-
RISD had a nickname. I didn't think
Yeah,
they had
apparently-
sports.
Apparently, they have a hockey team. They have a hockey
Oh,
team.
that makes sense.
And they cheer Go Nads. And this is real. This is real. They call the other team the Balls. Rhode Island School of Nads. Legendary. Legendary.
All right. Well, shout out to K-High. I'm repping K-High, the Ketchikan High School King Salmons, on today's show on this Fanatic Friday here, Football Friday. I figured we needed an important reminder today, James, on this, because it's week 13. And so every once in a while I can get a little reflective. And so last night I look at the schedule and I'm like, wow, it's week 13 already. Like, how in the heck did we get here? We spent all year talking about this sport, hyping it, debating it, fighting about it, and yet we only get 4 months to actually live it. Tomorrow, Utah fans will walk into Rice-Eccles Stadium for the last time this season. Maybe the last time with Kyle Whittingham as their head coach. They'll be tailgating one last time at Jack Trice Stadium, one last time at Nippert for a night game, Nippert night. Across the country, people will pile into bars, restaurants, and backyards and living rooms. And here's the thing. We don't show up for these tailgates to debate the playoff. We don't show up for NIL arguments or realignment drama or whatever today's outrage is. We show up because it's what we've always done. With our dads, with our moms, our aunts, our uncles, with our college roommates, our kids, our best friends. These Saturdays, James, are stitched into our lives. And now the season's almost gone. 2 more weeks. Championship Saturday, then it fades out again. I mean, sure, we're going to have bowls and playoff games and all that jazz, but only one fan base gets to feel the ultimate high, right? Like, at the end of the day, as excited as you are for your team, only one fan base gets to feel the high of winning a national championship. The rest of us pack it up and spend the next 7 months talking about transfers and coaching changes and why next year will be different. And this is the part we forget. The joy of sports shouldn't be binary. It isn't championship or failure because life is too short and there's too much disappointment. And the other part to that is, like, college football is a million tiny moments that don't raise trophies, but they stay with you forever. A wild fourth quarter comeback, a rivalry win that makes your whole week better, a tailgate with people you love, a freshman you've never heard of making that play, a perfect fall afternoon while the whole world feels like college football. I mean, Houston fans should feel amazing about this season, regardless of how the rest of this season goes. Arizona fans, like Cincinnati fans. I mean, BYU, for crying out loud. I understand there's disappointment in the playoff standings right now, but I mean, to think where BYU fans figured that they would be in August when suddenly their starting quarterback from last season's team is off the team and they have to start over. I mean, I can't imagine BYU fans were optimistic in August when they were losing Jake Retzloff. And to have a true freshman and Bear Bachmeier come in and do what he's done, I mean, this is what college football is all about. I mean, sure, sports, you want to win national championships, but it's these kinds of stories, James, that are what this sport is all about. I mean, if you're lucky enough, and if you've been lucky enough to see your team win a title, and whether that's in college football or any sport, if you have a team that you root for in any sport that has won a title, you know the truth. The satisfaction of winning a championship is temporary. It's temporary. You immediately want more. That's human nature. So as you head into your home stadium one last time, as you walk into your favorite bar for one of these final Saturdays, as you fire up that last or one of the final tailgates of the year, take a second, look around, and smell the damn roses. This sport gives us joy long before it gives us championships. Don't miss it while it's still here.
That was exceptional. That gave me all the feels.
I mean,
and you're spot on.
It's week 13, man. We're here, like
because college football, I think at the beginning of the year, we always talk about how it's a long season, and you hear coaches talk about it's a long season, and our team is, there's essentially, 3 chunks of a season. The early non-conference portion, then you've got those middle games, and then you enter into this final chapter, which we are in now. And the college football season, in my opinion, is by far, at least it feels like, the shortest of all the major sports seasons that we have. It feels way shorter than the NFL, even shorter than college basketball.
Well, it is. I mean, it effectively ends around Thanksgiving.
Exactly. For just about everybody.
Right.
And that's my concern about expanding the college football playoff to 24 or 32 or some of these pretty large numbers moving forward is I think we've already kind of scratched the surface of, well, if your team's not in the running for the college football playoff, then the season is lost. And that shouldn't be the case. There are still so many exciting things to play for. There are so many exciting things to be a fan of and for. And, I mean, like, talking about the tailgating and the fellowship and everything that takes place being a fan of college football, I hope that doesn't get lost with all of that moving forward. And these last couple of weeks, like, I know Kansas State's in a rough spot this weekend. They play at Utah. Utah's an absolute machine. But I'm more excited about next weekend to see if Kansas State can make a bowl game, what that bowl game would be. Maybe it's in a really cool city. Maybe it's drivable. There are so many added layers to college football as fans that I think get lost in all the coaching carousel and the coaching vacancies and the college football playoff and the private equity talk and super conferences and all these other things. You're right, man. That's a great reminder to get us back and grounded and to our roots of what college football is.
Yeah, I mean, because we're like literally weeks away from not being able to turn on the TV on a Saturday and watch college football all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you get to this time of year and there's so many other things going on. There's so much noise. And it's like a good reminder of, hey, in a few weeks, this is all going to be gone. And so, like, yeah, there's complaints and things to be upset about in the playoff and blah, 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 blah. But, like, that just can't be what it's all about. And it's, you know, it pretty much has become all it's all about. And so I think we just need to remind ourselves at certain times that, like, no, there's so many other reasons we watch and love the sport that have not been taken over by conference realignment, by NIL, and by, you know, the transfer portal and by the playoff.
And these next couple of weeks, we really start to get some incredible matchups, not just in the Big 12, but nationally.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like the month of October and even early November, like there's been a 2 or 3 week stretch where I felt like some of these marquee matchups were missing. I love rivalry week, and rivalry week is next week where you get rivalry matchups within our Big 12 conference, but also nationally. And that's where it can really be wheels off as it pertains to teams in the top 25, college football playoff. Ole Miss and Mississippi State play next weekend in the Egg Bowl. If Mississippi State wins that game, they make a bowl game, which would be a big deal for their fan base and their trajectory, and they have a chance to knock Ole Miss potentially out of the college football playoff. Like, Utah has a sneaky game at Kansas. That'll be senior day for Jalen Daniels. You think that game's not going to mean something to the Kansas Jayhawks? You get Georgia and Georgia Tech and Texas A&M and Texas. Like, rivalry week is approaching, and this weekend is a great setup to what should be a banger of a Thanksgiving weekend next weekend.
Yeah, and just remember the Modelo fan rules, Modelo's full-time fan rules of the season. And rule number 5, pregame rituals count as exercise. Modelo says don't question it. So just remember that. It's important to get your pregame rituals in for these last few weeks. All right, the big news from yesterday is that Mac Rhodes is officially Mac out as Baylor's athletic director. This is obviously something we saw coming. When it was announced there was going to be a leave of absence, there was only really one way this is going to end. Well, it's official. And from a timeline standpoint, it makes a ton of sense because, as we discussed, there's got to be decisions made about the future of the football program, and namely the head coach, which, in my estimation, Dave Aranda will not be back. And so there's a lot that has to happen for Baylor in the next few weeks here so that they can get out in front as much as they possibly can to try to get a new coach. But it's official. Mac Rhodes is out, James, and I would imagine that Baylor will be able to ink a new athletic director within the next week or week and a half. I'd imagine they've already been spending time doing their due diligence on all of this. Jeremiah Dickey is the name I think that stands out, the Boise State athletic director, and a guy that spent time at Baylor. He's 43 and seems like the right move, but there's plenty of other names out there, and I can't imagine that they'll go, to the end of the season without hiring an athletic director.
And what does that mean for the future of Dave Aranda? Certainly, I think further kind of clarifies or clears up that potential picture. And Mack Rhoades did a lot of really, really incredible things at Baylor. I mean, he's been there since 2016, so we're talking about a major move within the Baylor program. And they won a national championship in men's basketball. They won a Big 12 championship in football, won a Sugar Bowl in football. He also oversaw some major projects like Foster Pavilion, the basketball arena that they built from the ground up, which is just remarkable. So, I know that there's a lot of things that have happened and transpired in the last couple of weeks with him and his tenure, but he did so many incredible things for Baylor that I think need to be noted. And whoever the next athletic director is, the bar's been set really high, and that's because of Mack Rhoades. And I think that next athletic director finding a coach and going all in on football, which is the consensus seems to be that it's a top 3 job in this Big 12 conference. So, I mean, it should be a very attractive destination for somebody on the market.
Yeah.
And Baylor's in a fertile recruiting ground. They have tremendous resources. There's no reason why they can't be a team that contends for a Big 12 championship next year, and not next year, but in the grand scheme of things, consistently, they should be a program that we're talking about every year.
Yeah. No, and look, I think there's 2 factors that make this an alarmingly attractive job. One is they're already done with the 2 biggest projects in terms of infrastructure. Brand new football stadium, brand new basketball stadium. Right? So when you think about the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that have been invested in the infrastructure under Mack Rhoades in his tenure at Baylor, and you've got an AD that, that's all settled. You don't have to worry about any of that. Cool. And the other thing is, from an athletic director standpoint, I'm sure one of the best parts of the job is to hire a new football coach. And that would be attractive, too. So I think those 2 factors, in addition to all those things you just mentioned, James, make this a very attractive job. All right, we will talk about these things, Mack Rhoades, and who's next potentially at Baylor, and the situation with Dave Aranda, plus the future of the college football playoff with the newsbreaker. Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports and On3 joins us next with James Wesley and Amari Tepkin on this Modelo Football Friday. We are presented by Modelo here on Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Moments away from visiting with Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports. And on 3, Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today with James Westling in Salt Lake. He's going to be on the call for the BYU-Wisconsin basketball game this afternoon at the Delta Center. Fun day of basketball, plenty going on with the Bahamas and Bahamar. Texas Tech gets a win last night. We'll break it all down. So it's a basketball Friday. It's a football Friday. A lot going on. We've got women's soccer in the second round of the women's soccer tournament. Huge matchups going on this weekend, including games today and tonight, Big 12 games. Colorado has already punched their ticket into the third round with a win last night, 4-1 over Xavier. BYU and UCLA. This is on the women's soccer side. Ohio State plays Baylor. We also have Kansas advancing in their region. They take on Louisville, or rather Duke. Plus, we also have Texas Tech and North Carolina as well. That is one that will be on later on this afternoon. TCU and Memphis also playing. If TCU and Texas Tech both win, they'll meet up in the third round with games this afternoon. TCU and Memphis at 3, and Texas Tech, North Carolina at 4 Central Time. So the women's soccer tournament is heating up. We've got men's basketball, women's basketball to discuss. Football, of course. Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports joining us here momentarily. Also, last night, James, the Big 12 released their Edward Jones Big 12 Football Championship tiebreaker policies. And so basically, in this release, the following steps will be used as a tiebreaker procedures to determine the participants for the 2025 Edward Jones Big 12 Football Championship. If 2 teams are tied in the Big 12 standings, conference games only, the following steps will be taken until a determination is made. A, the tied teams will be compared based on their head-to-head record during the season. That's as cut and dried as it gets, right? The teams will be compared based on win percentage against common conference opponents. So that would be B. So if there's no head-to-head, then B would be the teams tied will be compared based on win percentage against all common conference opponents. And then C, the tied teams will be compared based on win percentage against the next highest placed common opponent in the standings based on the record in all games played within the conference proceeding through the conference standings. That's C. You can go to D, which would be the tied teams will be compared based on combined win percentage in conference games of conference opponents. You following along, James?
Oh, definitely. Really easy to do so. I love this. So fans and media members are uniting in celebration of the Big 12 Conference, putting together an entire page on their website for the Edward Jones Big 12 Football Championship tiebreaker. They call it the Tiebreaker Central. And they have a lineup of all 16 team logos, and they have grayed out the teams that are no longer in contention for a Big 12 championship. And so it's really easy to read. And then they have clinching scenarios, strike through text, scenario eliminated. BYU and Texas Tech are the only programs who can clinch a spot in the Big 12 championship in Week 13. Texas Tech clinches with an Arizona State loss and a BYU win, or losses by Arizona State, BYU, and Utah. And then it goes further to show you the scenario for BYU with a win over Cincinnati plus a loss by Arizona State and Houston, and they're in. And there's one more scenario for them, a win over Cincinnati and an Arizona State loss, and a Utah win would put BYU in. And this is going to be updated each and every week. So it's easy to read. It's very legible. The logos are bright and shiny, and they pop against the grayed out logos of the teams that are no longer in contention. This is a brilliant move for the Big 12 Conference, and I've seen nothing but, people praising the Big 12 for finally somebody puts their tiebreaker scenario in an easy-to-read format, and we know what's going on.
The biggest question mark I have, and you're 100% correct on everything you just said, is this lays out a tiebreaker scenario in which 2 teams are tied. What happens in a situation in which more than 2 teams are tied, which if BYU or Texas Tech loses again, that's a situation in which we're going to have to deal with multiple 2-loss teams. So that and maybe that comes out next week, because at this point they're focused in on the 2 1-loss teams, what they need to do in order to clinch it, not even worry about a second tiebreaker. But I'm curious what happens because obviously you can't make head-to-head the first tiebreaker with 3 or 4 or 5 teams tied. There's got to be a separate and if I remember correctly from years past when it's kind of come down to this, it's been, I think the first tiebreaker between multiple teams tied would be your record against common opponents, or is it just win percentage against common opponents?
Let's see.
We'll have to. It does not have the multiple team tiebreaker, and we'll have to figure out that. But everything else is laid out perfectly well. All right, let's welcome in Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports joining us here. Ross, what's going on, man? How are you? Busy?
Busy, just a little busy. Yeah, it's that time of year,
There's so much to get to with you, especially as it pertains to Big 12 news. But you've been focused in a lot on the expansion of the playoffs, so I want to start there. You're reporting on all this, so you have such better information. But it seems to me that the disconnect between the Big Ten and the SEC is sort of irreconcilable. And I mean, I don't. In my opinion, it's hard for me to believe we'd go from 12 to 24, but probably first from 12 to 16 to 24. I guess just give us your sense of what's happening now and, when, 2027, is that the earliest we could expect expansion?
Yeah, I would say that 27 is probably the earliest you will see anything happen. There's only a week or so left into the deadline to make a format change for next year. Now they could extend that deadline. I think that's a possibility at some point, but I don't know that they're going to actually come to an agreement because it does feel like the two entities that really need to sort of control the decision, the Big Ten and SEC, do seem to be at an impasse that doesn't sound like it's going to change. The SEC wants more of a 16-team model with 5 AQs and 11 at large, and the Big Ten wants a 20-plus team sort of model with more AQs, multiple AQs per league, and that's just sort of how they are. And it doesn't sound like they're coming to any kind of agreement. I think the ACC and Big 12 would sort of be on board with either format. Probably not the original Big Ten format, which was a 16-team, 4 AQs for the SEC and Big Ten, and 2 each for the ACC and Big 12. But the latest one the Big Ten proposed is 4-4-4-4, so everybody gets 4 AQs. But there are some issues with that from the SEC side, I think. And number one, the 4th place Big 12 or ACC team gets in, which if you look at the ACC standings this year, could be a 7-5 Duke. Do you want a 7-5 team into the playoff? And also just going, as you mentioned, just going from 12 to 24 is a huge jump. Would take probably the elimination of the conference championship games, just a change in the calendar. It would just be a lot. So they're going back and forth. I would guess that they'll continue to talk. Maybe they get an extension or something of the deadline, the December 1st deadline into January or February, and they keep talking. But it seems to me that it would be very hard for them to come up with an agreement.
So, Ross, does that mean that this current 12-team format, in its current the way that it's lined out right now, so it would remain in effect for 2 additional seasons past this one?
No, just one. So it's
okay.
Just 26, yeah. So I think it's next year begins the new 6-year contract with ESPN. I was trying to do it in my head. Yeah, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. And so it's kind of the new contract with ESPN. But they don't have to decide on a format for every year, right? For all the years. They don't have to. They can do it in chunks if they want. Just like this 12-team format was done for basically 2 years. They agreed for 2 years until the new agreement starts, and then they would sort of reevaluate. So they're sort of in that time frame. But they could go to 16 next year, and then the next year go to 24 and continue to expand. They could if they wanted to, and that's what might happen. We might see sort of a stair step in that.
What's the deal with the Big Ten here? Like, why? It feels like maybe the SEC, you can ask the same question about the SEC, but it feels like the Big Ten is just going above and beyond to try to make this more and more complicated. Like, what's the sticking point for them? Is it just basically the automatic qualifiers that kind of is the disconnect?
Yeah, I think it's several reasons the Big Ten's taking the approach that they are. Number one, I think they don't trust the subjectivity of the selection committee, and um, for that to sort of be limited, you have to expand the field and add in more automatic qualifiers so the selection committee won't have control over those spots. So that's one thing. I think second thing I would say is just in general allowing more teams into the playoff to have more teams alive in November, bigger games, um, more important games to play in game type of atmospheres to the playoff. I think that's one of the things too. Number three, I'd say with the AQs, if you have automatic qualifiers, not only do you, as I mentioned, limit the kind of role of the selection committee, but you also put an emphasis on your conference games and not as much on your non-conference games. And so the thought is that you'll have bigger brands scheduling non-conference games against one another because they won't be penalized for losing those games if there's an AQ structure for just um, based on conference standings and conference games. So there's a thought to all of that as well. And then there's just the in general expansion of having more teams in the playoff. So I think for all those reasons, that's at least what they've argued. Um, the Big Ten's partner, I think in one of the Big 12's partners, Fox, you know, wants this as well. They've made that pretty clear. Eric Shanks, one of their CEOs and their executives, went, I think on the record maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and said that he's for this more AQ model. It's just more a sort of a professional NFL type
Yeah.
of model.
Yeah.
And I think, all of college football sort of moving into that pro space and professionalizing. And I think this is another step potentially in that direction.
Yeah, that sounds right. Talking with Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Ross, what a wild couple of weeks it's been down in Waco, Texas for Baylor and their athletic director, Mack Rhoades. Just what can you tell us about that whole situation?
Yeah, really sort of unfortunate. Mac, I think, has respect nationwide. Is the reason he was put as chair of the selection committee, and he was put on leave, and for all we kind of know publicly, right, as he was put on leave for a violation of their policy down there in Baylor. And obviously, it's a faith-based university, and they have certain standards that probably more rigorous than other schools. It sounds to me like it's something like off campus, that it wasn't anything involving anybody on campus or students or coaches or things like that. So it sounds like more of a personal thing that happened off campus. And we know this week he kind of struck sort of a deal where he stepped away, and they've been negotiating um, that all week, and it came to the conclusion yesterday. And so a very good athletic director job is open there in Baylor. I don't think it was any secret, even though Baylor is a private school, that Mack Rhoades was in the top two or three of athletic directors in the country in pay in his contract. So a very lucrative job there at Baylor, and it'll be interesting to see what they do.
I had a crazy idea yesterday, Ross, and Ross obviously does a great job in covering the sport nationally, but spent a lot of time in Baton Rouge and covering LSU. So my crazy statement yesterday was that next season Dave Aranda would be the defensive coordinator at LSU. How crazy is that?
Um, Dave's family, obviously, I spent, as you mentioned, I spent 6 years in Baton Rouge, covered the football program there when Dave was there, covered his hire in 2016 in Baton Rouge, and know him pretty well. And I know that his family loves Baton Rouge, still has close connections to people there. Um, I guess I could see it. I think Dave, if he's not the Baylor head coach next year, and there's certainly a lot of, you know, buzz around around that. I don't know how the athletic director
Right.
opening impacts that. I'm guessing it would in some way, but if he's not the head coach, then Dave is probably meant to be an NFL or college defensive coordinator. He's one of the best when you talk to people in the coaching industry
Yeah.
at scheming up, getting in the dark room, in the film room. That's what he really loves, and I'm assuming that he'll go back sort of into that role if Baylor decides to separate from him.
Ross, with multiple Big 12 teams on the bubble, just outside of the potential college football playoff field, with this Lane Kiffin stuff, how do you think the college football playoff committee is going to analyze that situation, and will it have any impact, in your opinion, on what they do with Ole Miss moving forward?
Well, the committee, I think my columnist Dan Woken wrote a story about this earlier this week about how it could be impacted because when you look at the criteria and what the committee has done in the past, when it comes to injuries, we remember about the situation a few years ago with Florida State and keeping them out of the playoffs, partly because of the injury to their starting quarterback. We've seen the committee dock and penalize programs for missing a big piece of a team's success that season. And I think perhaps more than any other school in the country, Ole Miss, has relied upon Lane Kiffin. He's not just some CEO coach, right? He calls the plays. He's involved heavily in all the offense and game planning. So I think I think that you may see, especially if Ole Miss shows signs of falter against Mississippi State next week in the Egg Bowl, you may see some kind of seeding penalty. It would still be hard for me to see them missing the playoff, even if they lost to Mississippi State next week. It'd be hard for them to fall from 6 all the way out. They'd have to fall to 11 because the ACC champion will get an AQ at 11 and the G5 will get an AQ at 12. So it's your top 10 you're looking at. It would be hard for me to see them falling out, but I guess it's possible. I mean, they'll have the same amount of losses as Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Alabama potentially. And so they could fall out, but I would guess that they, would get some kind of docked in some way, which is sad for sort of the team and what they've done this year. But that's sort of the reality if they don't have Lane Kiffin for the playoffs.
Ross, how many more openings do you anticipate happening across college football after the season ends?
Well, yeah, we're going to have the sort of domino effect, right? Of
one gets hired, right?
Like you have these 4 sort of blue blood openings right now: LSU, Florida, Penn State, and Auburn, and most of them, I think, at least 3 of the 4, probably going to go get sitting power conference coaches. So that's going to open up those spots, and those places are going to go down probably to the P4 coordinator or group of 5 head coach ranks. And they're going to take those coaches. And then those jobs are going to come open. So it's this big domino effect that right now, Lane Kiffin his decision sort of controls.
Yeah.
Because I think the Florida and LSU job are sort of at the top of that domino, that tree. And they need to get filled before some other jobs sort of get filled. And so we could see more than 15, I think, Power 4 head coaching jobs open. There's 9 now or so. So we could see 5 or 6 more, I think, open because of the domino effect, perhaps even more. There's going to be a lot of programs touched by all of this.
Great stuff, as always, from Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports, also a contributor for On3 Sports. Ross, thanks for your time, man. Be well.
Hey, guys. Good to be on.
Take care. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports On3, joining us here on Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. We are presented by Modelo. And we are heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. This is the Big 12. This is a different league. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today, along with James Westling, who's joining us this morning from Salt Lake City, where he'll be on the call later this afternoon for BYU Wisconsin basketball. Should be a really good game. Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, with James Westling on social at James Westling. I am Ari Temkin on social at Ari Sports. More on the Baylor athletic director coaching search and what it might mean for the future head coach at Baylor. Will they be looking for a new head coach? Plus, coming up in about 10 minutes from now, Texas Tech GM James Blanchard did a really good interview with Sam Kahn from The Athletic, which talks a lot about kind of the future of roster building in college football, which we'll get into. But, James, of all of the games this weekend on the Big 12 football side of things, which one do you think is most likely to result in an upset? Who is most on upset alert this Saturday?
Well, first let's identify, who those candidates are, right? So Iowa State's favored against Kansas. Arizona's favored at home against Baylor. Utah is, last I checked, a 17.5-point favorite at home against Kansas State. Houston is favored at home against TCU, albeit by just 1.5. And then UCF's favored against Oklahoma State. BYU's favored at Cincinnati. And Arizona State is favored at Colorado. For me, in terms of the dog that I like the most, that's pretty simple in my eyes. I like your Kansas Jayhawks. I just think this is a tremendous matchup for a Kansas team that has been scratching the surface all season long, but for 2 years in a row now just hasn't been able to get over the hump and have that breakthrough game. They've had some disappointing losses this season, I get that. But also, they had Missouri on the ropes and should have won that game early on in the year. They should have beaten probably Cincinnati. They should have maybe beaten Arizona. Like, there are so many games on their schedule where they outgained, maybe even outplayed their opponent, but somehow found new ways to lose games. And I think this matchup with an Iowa State secondary that is depleted. I know this game's on the road for KU, but KU's no stranger to playing road games the last 2 years. I just think Jalen Daniels is primed to have a monster showing against Iowa State. So I think most glaring potential upset in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, and that's a good pick on your side. I mean, I think of all of them, like, you're not very confident in your Wildcats getting a win over the Utes? 17.5-point spread?
At this point in time. 17.5. And Utah, so the team total for Utah is like 34. Utah's averaging 45 points a game outside of their 2 losses. I mean, they're just crushing people. They're an offensive machine. And K-State has problems on both sides of the ball. They are decimated by injuries.
Yeah, Romaine and Toby Osinsami are out. Those are their best 2, players against the run defensively, so they're in big trouble on the defensive end of this game.
And Colby McAllister's out, starting safety. They also lost Moss, who's been one of their best members of their secondary. I don't think he's expected to play. And then Jace Brown, offensively. There's just not enough firepower there for Kansas State. And, man, what a weird year it's been for K-State and KU. I would lump like K-State, KU, Baylor, TCU all in this same camp of disappointing, just very bizarre seasons that almost as a fan base you just want to forget and put behind you and hope that in some way this is an opportunity for these coaching staffs, for Baylor, whoever the new guy is, to learn from what transpired this year and I wouldn't say use as a springboard for next year, but I think that there's been some glaring weaknesses for all 4 of those teams and things that they'll have to clean up for next year and hopefully address in the portal.
What about Oklahoma State over UCF? You see that upset happening?
No, not at all. I don't. I think UCF rolls against Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State's best chance for a Big 12 win was last Saturday at home against Kansas State because of the spot. Like, UCF is still – they're 2 wins away from making a bowl game. They still have a lot to play for, and they have shown no signs this season of packing it in. Taven Jackson is going to play in this game. He's the only quarterback, I believe, that's not on the injury report for UCF. I just think that's a spot where UCF at home, even if it's not a sellout, it's going to be rowdy. Long road trip for Oklahoma State. That has blowout, in my opinion, written all over it.
Yeah, and a reminder, Oklahoma State is 0-7 this year in Big 12 play. They went 0-9 last year. Their last Big 12 win came in Bedlam. I mean, think about that. Oklahoma State over Oklahoma. Then Oklahoma State went on to play in the Big 12 championship game. They lose to Texas. They have not won a Big 12 game since then. Pretty wild.
It is, man. And like coming into this season with the addition of Haas Haney, and they overhauled their staff and they overhauled their defense, and we thought, okay, maybe they can make it to a bowl game. And Mike Gundy just doesn't have 2 bad years in a row, right? But then I was thinking, okay, how many guys on that Big 12 championship team were on last year's team? I mean, my God, they had the best running back in the nation on last year's roster, and they went 3-9.
Yeah.
Like, how did we not see this coming? I feel stupid in a lot of ways because they had Alan Bowman coming back, they had Ollie Gordon coming back, they had Nick Martin and Colin Oliver, and sure, they sustained injuries to those 2 linebackers early in the year, but they had enough firepower offensively to win more than 3 games last year. And, yeah, man, it's so foreign. Like, I think about the Spencer Sanders teams at Oklahoma State and all the great receivers they've had go through that program, and they were always stout defensively. So this is a big offseason for Oklahoma State, and why I'm so keyed in to that coaching search for them, because they have the resources now in NIL. They've already shown that they have made a major step in the right direction with their men's basketball program, and I think football is next. I think, unfortunately, because we love Mike Gundy on this program, but the Oklahoma State fan base just wasn't all in on Coach Gundy in this NIL era, and that's unfortunate, and I don't think it's justified, but the bottom line is that was the case, and they will be all in for whoever the next guy is.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Coming up next, Texas Tech GM James Blanchard did an interview with our friend Sam Kahn from The Athletic, and he said some really interesting things about the future of roster building in college football. We'll get on that next. This is Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. Great to have you with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12 Conference. Tune in Big 12 Studios. Make sure to check out big12studios.com. And there you will find all of the platforms in which you can find Big 12 Studios, where you can watch us each and every morning here from 7 to 10 a.m. Central, 8 to 11 Eastern Time, as we hit this peak sports period for college athletics and the Big 12. A couple more weeks in the regular season for college football. Championship Saturday on the way in the first week of December. And then we've got bowl games, the playoff, college basketball heating up. Plenty to discuss and react to, which is why you need to join us each and every morning to get our side from a Big 12 perspective. James Westling out in Salt Lake. He'll be calling BYU and Wisconsin later. Also a reminder to check out the brand spanking new Big 12 app. Go download it in the App Store today. Have a personalized Big 12 experience. It just released yesterday, and if I may say so myself, it's awesome. So I don't know if you've given the Big 12 app a run-through, James, but all of the information all in one place, plus you can find Big 12 Radio as well on the app at Big 12. Just search Big 12 in the App Store.
I'm doing it right now on my phone. I search Big 12 and loading. This isn't the Big 12 faults. This is
your own fault.
Slow phone.
Yeah.
Big 12 Conference. There it is. I hit Get Sports Lifestyle Big 12 Conference. Holy smokes! This is incredible. Easy to navigate. It's got stories. It's got the latest news. I can click on my favorite team. I can check the scoreboard in one simple, consolidated place.
It's amazing.
This is amazing.
Yeah. All right. James Blanchard, who's the highly publicized general manager of Texas Tech, did an interview with Sam Kahn from The Athletic. If you're unfamiliar with James's background, he has an incredible story. He was sort of an internet scout. He would do breakdown game film and became known on message boards and on the internet by producing those films, and then basically was hired by Matt Rule and took a huge pay cut to come in as sort of on a tryout sort of basis, and from there his career has just taken off. And I mean, at one point when he was hired by Matt Rule at Baylor, he was living away from his family, sleeping in his car, sleeping on the couch, just doing whatever he could. He took a huge pay cut, left his family, and took that job, and obviously has now taken him to the general manager overseeing the entire program at Texas Tech. He was offered the opportunity to take on the same role at Notre Dame last year and declined. So, yeah, I think taking that pay cut for the 1 year served him well. And, he's been highly publicized, James, because of the roster management and building that Texas Tech did this offseason to overhaul their roster. And so I thought the interview that he did with Sam Kahn, which was produced on The Athletic, was really interesting and gave us really a good sense of kind of the future of roster management in the Big 12. Do you have a chance to check out the interview, James?
Yeah, this is amazing. And James Blanchard is an incredible story. I mean, this has 30 for 30 written all over it. To go from a message board grinder to sleeping in his Chrysler 300 to running a $25 million roster. Okay, he got on Matt Rule and Baylor's radar because he was posting deep dive scouting synopsis and videos on the Baylor message boards. That's where they found this guy. I mean, this is an incredible, remarkable from rags to riches story. And how it pertains to Texas Tech is they've hit on the best transfer portal in the history of college football. And sure, we can talk about the money that they spent, but the bottom line is they're not even a top 10 roster in college football. That's just the highlight, and that's the narrative that's been pushed because Texas Tech is the new kid on the block. And James Blanchard flat out said, we should have spent more. We should have spent more because every single guy that they bought, if you will, even though that wasn't the entire story, has panned out and paid for itself plus some. And if I'm and maybe he doesn't have all of the qualifications, but he has been so successful in his short stint at Texas Tech that I can see why Notre Dame wanted him as their general manager. And if I'm Baylor, I consider him for my athletic director position.
Wow.
Like, if football is going to be the sport that drives the bus, and if you're going to be that football-centric and centered, there's nobody better in terms of identifying coaching and player talent than James Blanchard. It's a remarkable story, and it has played out beautifully right before our eyes.
Well, and James, I think one of the things that stands out is, and this is no secret, I mean, when Joey McGuire took over at Texas Tech and then hired Blanchard as his first hire, I mean, there is a very specific criteria of measurables and analytics that they're looking for in individual players. They're not just scouring players based on stats or it's fit, but it's also like they have to hit certain 40 times and certain measurables like that. They're very rigid in that, and I think that has been a huge boost to informing them of the right players. But some of these things that I think that he said that were really interesting in terms of giving us a idea of what the future of roster management and building looks like in college football. So one of the questions was, are you still as aggressive with early scholarship offers as you were then? Meaning, previously Texas Tech had to become very aggressive with offering early to players in order to get in on the conversation. We've seen Texas Tech already reap huge benefits. I mean, they got a 4-star, the 5th overall ranked receiver that committed yesterday. So their class just in 26 and 27 just continued to get better and better. His answer there was, no, we've slowed down a little bit. Junior and senior evaluations are way more important now than you're allocating big money to some of these young men. This might be the slowest I've ever been to offer. Going forward, we might take smaller high school classes, so we'll see. That could represent a massive shift, James, in the way that teams look at offering scholarships. When you've got like Texas or Ohio State or Texas A&M, traditionally the teams that have had the most money, they can come in late and offer and still be able to trump most other offers. And Texas Tech is now joining that conversation. And so it's really interesting how do you go transfers? How much do you allocate certain money to? Is it transfer portal? Is it X to go to scholarship offers to high school players? I think that how you manage that dynamic is so important and impactful.
Absolutely. And there's nobody better at doing that than James Blanchard. And, I think that college football teams and certainly Texas Tech are going to be very selective with who they offer at the high school level. Texas Tech puts a ton of stock and emphasis into all those measurables that you were talking about, body type and scheme fit. And they go, what type of movement skills does a certain player have? Like Joey McGuire was telling us some of the really unique, bizarre things, and I think one of them I remember off the top of my head was like reach. Like maybe a guy's only 6'3", but he's got a 6'7" wingspan. Things like that they look for that maybe some other rosters don't go that deep in college football. But yeah, I mean, with the success that they've had with this portal class, if it's not broke, why fix it? I don't see them putting a ton of stock into recruiting high school kids. And the ones that they do offer and do commit to Texas Tech are going to be elite prospects. Like the days of Texas Tech scouring Southwest Texas to find 2- and 3-star kids are over. They're going to be offering the heavy hitters that can come in and play right away, because now they know not only is Texas Tech going to be able to compete with anybody because of what they've done this season in the portal, but like Texas Tech all of a sudden I think becomes a very attractive destination for guys that want to play in the NFL, which is the lifelong dream of many of these college athletes. If you want to play on Sundays, Texas Tech has shown with probably 9 of their 11 starters going to be drafted in the NFL draft in the next year or two, maybe even more. That I think speaks volumes about just this perfect synergy that they have going in terms of the type of kid they want and the type of kid that wants them.
He was also asked, what do you say to people who say, they spent $7 million on the defensive line or they spent too much on their portal class? His answer was, I would say that we have the best D-line in college football. I think all these teams out there, they spend tons of money year in and year out in high school recruiting classes, and that's fine. But I think we've shown the world a little bit that we did it better than everybody in the portal historically. I think people are going to look back and say, this is the greatest single portal class in the history of college football. And we did it at such a high level that this one portal class probably outweighs at every school, except maybe 2 or 3, 5 years of high school recruiting that they did. And it took us less time and less money than it took over those 5 years. Which, by the way, like 100% accurate. So, I mean, think about it. If people may look at them and be like, they just spent a ton of money in land. I mean, what some schools spent 4 or 5 years in high school recruiting on and development, they basically did in one offseason to overhaul their roster and turn it into a championship-level roster. I mean, it's obvious how much better they are than the rest of the field of the Big 12 right now. And that's all based on the portal haul that they had from the roster improvements from last year to this year.
And I think when you look at what they've done compared to some other programs that have had success cracking the code of the transfer portal, like Florida State did it the year that they got left out. What was that, 22 or 23? Colorado last year had a lot of hits in the transfer portal. Ohio State, they supplemented their roster that was already strong with 10 to 12 NFL level guys that they brought in, and it won them a national championship. But, I think identifying the difference between what has happened like with Colorado this year, because Colorado still brought in a heavy portal class, but it didn't hit. And at Texas Tech, it hit big time. And so there's some discrepancy there in terms of how they're evaluating their players. And I think a lot of it is the scheme piece that we've talked about. And with James Blanchard and his ability to identify guys that fit what they're trying to do, or they get guys on campus and then they tailor their scheme around them, which I think we've seen them do that this season with the way they're running their offense. They're not as up-tempo. They're not running as many plays as they were in the past. Yeah. They've leaned more on their ground game than ever before with Cameron Dickey and Jacoby Williams, even Will Hammond when he was in at quarterback. And then defensively, Sheil Wood has completely overhauled that defense starting from scratch with the pieces that they've had. My point is all of those signs tell me that they're not going anywhere in terms of hitting on their transfer portal commits. So every time I see one of these social media announcements with, hey, we got this guy from the portal, we might not know much about him, but we will in the future because we know it's going to be exactly what Texas Tech is looking for.
Blanchard in this piece from Sam Conn of The Athletic was asked, how much will a baseline championship roster cost in the next year or two? His answer, about $20 to $30 million. Quote, and that's dictated by how close you are to the blue blood status and recent success. The further away you are, the higher number has to be. Now that Texas Tech is winning, a guy that we might be able to get for $600,000. If you're a program that hasn't won at a high level, you might have to pay $800,000 to get that guy. What do you have to pay to somebody to get to an unproven concept, right? So they had to, and Blanchard was transparent earlier about how much they had to overspend for certain guys because they hadn't yet proven it out. But this year will go a long way in helping to reduce the amount that they have to pay. But 20 to 30 million is what he said, and that number is only going up.
Yeah, 20 to 30 million, that's still half of what Ohio State's roster was, what Texas roster was last season. So sure, that feels like a big number on the surface, but the bottom line is that's still half of some of the other rosters in the country that nobody talks about because it's Texas and Ohio State and Michigan, and that's par for the course, right? Also, I just looked up what the NFL salary cap is. Okay, so the NFL has a smaller roster than these college football programs. $20 to $30 million. College football is the NFL, right? Do you know what the NFL salary cap was last season, or is this season, I should say?
What?
You want to take a stab at it?
Way more than 20 to 30 million.
Yeah, $279 million. So this idea that college football is the NFL, sure, there are some signs that it's trending in that direction, but there's still a long ways to go.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I appreciate our friend of the program, Chris Level from the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network and RedRaidersports.com and Lockdown Red Raiders. He texts, as we talked about some of the specific criteria that Tech is looking for in their players. So it's not just go scour and find guys that, that are, have this much production or, maybe he was at Alabama or Georgia. No, it's way more specific and granular than that. And what Chris texts is better be able to dunk a basketball and have a really good hurdle time to play here. It translates. Jacoby Williams is the best example, can do both incredibly well. So, I remember when I read this piece written about Blanchard and McGuire, their specific criteria they're looking for. It was it's broad jump. It's, some of these very specific performance metrics that they're looking for that they see translates year to year out to on-field success.
And Eric Morris does the same thing at North Texas, which he's from the Texas Tech coaching tree. Now, he was Mike Leach, and he played at Texas Tech, but they have arguably the best freshman running back in the country in this kid, Cameron Hawkins, who I think he leads the nation in yards rushing among freshmen in college football. And they offered him because he was a track athlete. he was a sensational basketball player, highlight reel dunks, and they actually went and watched him play basketball and offered him coming off the basketball floor because they saw the athleticism. He's like 6'3", 200. He's going to be a huge portal guy if he chooses to leave North Texas next season. So a lot of those kind of same ways of doing things, I just find it fascinating. Like, I love that stuff.
Right.
I love coaches that can go out and, like, identify, hey, I bet this guy can be a baller football player, watching him play basketball. And that's the type of stuff that they do at Texas Tech with James Blanchard.
Well, right. And it's, again, just speaks to this idea that, like, they're not just, like, willy-nilly paying guys because there's they have a very specific game plan. They're going after very specific players, and it's a great model for everybody else to follow. Like, you have to have – your criteria doesn't have to match what Texas Tech is doing. Just have a criteria. It goes deeper into don't just go and not have a plan. Like, this is a much more deep, greater depth side to not only having a plan, but, now have a plan specifically in the type of players you want to see and have that granular data available to you.
Like, they got Romello Height in the portal, the edge rusher, and his tackles for loss and his sacks – his numbers had a downtick his last stop before Texas Tech. And so he wasn't as sought after in the portal as maybe he would have been 2 years ago. And I remember we saw him at Big 12 Media Days. When he came over to sit at the table, I was like, my God, this guy looks like something straight out of a Marvel superhero movie. Like, he is just an incredibly impressive specimen of a human being. That's the stuff they look for. And then they get him on the football field, and he's had this breakout monster year. He's going to be an NFL player. It's just all clicking for the Red Raiders.
All right, Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. On the way next, Jason Scheer from Wildcat Authority joins us. Just how happy are they in Tucson with what's been going on? It's a huge week for Arizona athletics with wins in basketball, a new stadium deal. We'll get into all that next with Jason Scheer. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today, powered by Modelo, along with James Westling, who is in Salt Lake City. He'll be on the call for the BYU-Wisconsin basketball game this afternoon. Let's talk all things Arizona Wildcats with Jason Scheer from WildcatAuthority.com. What's going on, Jason? How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
What a week for Arizona athletics. What do you think about the win in football, what Arizona's doing in basketball right now with 3 of their 5 wins being incredible wins? UConn, Florida, and UCLA. And then something we haven't even talked about this week, which was a very lucrative stadium naming deal that was announced this week with a local casino. Jason, I mean, anything else happened this week for Arizona athletics?
Yeah, it's been a busy week, and a lot of times around here in the past, when it's a busy week, it's not for good reasons. It's usually for someone got fired or something bad happened or whatever it may be. So the fact that it's a positive good week is a busy week is very good around here.
So tell us about the new stadium. Sorry, real quick. Tell us about the new stadium deal and what it'll be called and what this represents.
So yeah, there's a casino out here, Casino del Sol. It'll be named Casino del Sol Stadium instead of Arizona Stadium, and it's a long deal. It's over 20 years. It's $3 million a year, so a $60 million deal, and they'll brand and things like that. And when Desiree Reed-Francois, the AD, said that she would be looking at naming the stadium, that was probably the first one that came up with people here, just because they have such a presence. And when there's a large event, a lot of times it's at the casino and things like that. So it'll be a little weird. We'll have to get used to calling it Casino del Sol Stadium, but we probably won't see the branding and stuff until next year. But it was described as a deal where in a day and age where you need as much money as you can to kind of survive college athletics, it was a deal that they found was going to be beneficial moving forward.
I'd love to know all the buzz surrounding Arizona athletics right now. Are we more excited about the start that the basketball team has had, probably the most impressive resume in the country, or let's not let that overshadow what an incredible football season it's been as well?
I think people are excited about football, but this is absolutely a basketball town. There's just it, and that'll probably never change, no matter how good football is. There's people that look forward when as soon as that first basketball game starts, but because usually Arizona football isn't very good, so it's usually like, okay, basketball season right away, and I think that's kind of ingrained in people's mind. There is some excitement surrounding football, but when basketball starts the season like that, I think it kind of gets everyone going, and it's a fun time to be an Arizona fan for both. But I think basketball is going to kind of always win the day around here.
Yeah. So I mean, my favorite thing about Arizona basketball right now is this 3-point shooting thing, and it's something I'm sure you've talked a lot about on your podcast and on your website. But like last year, they had the number 1 offense in the Big 12, and they were not a high volume 3-point shooting team. Once again, like they beat a UConn team at UConn, shooting 2 of 10 from 3, but they're like, it's almost like they're zigging when the rest of the country is zagging and leaning into 3-pointers, and they play bully ball. Like they out rebounded UConn by 20. They score in the paint. It's like, all right, you're going to shoot threes, and we're going to get inside. Like, I mean, Bradley takes his dude down low and beats him from the low block. I mean, that's what they do. They're just physical, and they've got size, and it's impressive to watch, especially in a world in which we're told that you can only win by shooting 3-pointers.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I'm not even sure how sustainable it is. Just, I think the bully ball is sustainable, but the complete lack of threes. I mean, they beat Florida and they shot 5 threes the entire game.
Yeah.
And even Tommy Lloyd said after the game, he's like, yeah, I'd like that number to be around 15 or 20. And then they beat UCLA and they don't shoot well. And then they beat UConn and they don't really shoot well from 3. And you look around and like Arizona's facing Alabama in a few weeks, and their strategy is to shoot 35 threes a game. And so I'm curious how that contrast goes. But it's a situation where I think a lot of times people assume because Tommy Lloyd is a good offensive coach that it's going to be shooting and all that. And,
right.
He likes size up front. Like they'll play 2 centers at once. They want to be physical and out rebound you. And I think it is a little bit of a concern that their 3-point shooting isn't there, but they're shooting 38% when they do shoot threes. So it's not like they're really bad at them. The feeling is, should they need to shoot more, they can make more. But it is strange, but effective so far, because you're right. Those 3-point numbers, it's very rare in college basketball.
So if it's not sustainable, what do you think that number needs to be? And do you see signs that Arizona can be a team that makes 5 or 6 or 7 threes a game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the range that Tommy probably wants is 15 to 20 3-point attempts a game. And, they have Anthony Del Orso, who's a very good 3-point shooter, Jaden Bradley, who can shoot threes. I think that one of the issues right now is Braden Burries, who's a 5-star shooting guard. He struggled quite a bit early in the season, and he was supposed to come in and be better offensively, and he struggled. Now, 3 of his first 5 games are Florida, UCLA, and UConn. So it's hard to know, like, hey, you're a true freshman, here you go. So ideally he gets better at 3-point shooting, but if he doesn't, it won't be a strength of this team. They just don't have a lot of guys that can shoot threes. So I think in an ideal world, you go to 15 or 20, but they shot a lot against, I think, Utah Tech. They were 11 of 26, and they beat Utah Tech by 30 because it was, obviously it was an overmatched team, but that's not, that's probably too high of a number. So I think if they can kind of find that happy medium and shoot 35 to 40% from 3, that'll at least, have teams kind of think twice about what they've done so far, even though it hasn't worked, which is just pack the paint and dare Arizona to find a way to score.
We're talking with Jason Scheer here from Wildcat Authority. All right, on the football side of things, it was tough on Brent Brennan last year. I know that at the end of the year, even after one season, it felt like there were some calls from some of the powers that be at Arizona for him to get fired. But, I mean, here they are having a very successful season, coming off their best win of the year and really on the heels of probably their 2 best wins back-to-back. What's the fan base's, interest level, excitement level on what this program is doing right now?
It's definitely more exciting than it was last year. And I think people are still recovering from last year in a way, because this was a team that was coming off an Alamo Bowl appearance, was supposed to be really good. Guys got injured. It didn't go well. The coordinator hires weren't good. And Arizona was just not a good football team. Brent Brennan kind of cleans house, and now they're good. Like, they're a legitimately good football team. They've lost by a combined 6 points to Houston and BYU, and then we're talking about a 9-1 team. And he's done a great job kind of replacing the coordinators and kind of inserting his style of play there, which I think was important and something that even he would admit he didn't do last year. But it's always, there's kind of like an Arizona fan syndrome, right? Like with football, is when things start to go well in the back of your head, you're like, up, and here we go again. And even Danny Gonzalez, the defensive coordinator, started his presser against his post-Cincinnati presser, like, how many of you thought we were going to lose? And said, oh, here we go, Arizona yet again. And he's like, they're trying to change that. And I think they've done a nice job. And they got a big game against Baylor and ASU, and we'll see how the season finishes out. But it's been a really enjoyable and successful season so far.
Jason, is Noah Fifita the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year?
I think he has a really good case. I really do. There's a couple players, and the reason is, one of the reasons is, like, you look at Texas Tech, right? They have a bunch of players that are really good. You can make a case for like 3 players on there, like Cameron Dickey's good, Morton's good. You look at BYU, is it Bear Bachmeyer or LJ Barton, right? They're both really good offensive players. With Arizona, it is Noah Fifita. That is it. Like, he is their best offensive player by far. They cannot win without him. Seth Dagey, what he's been able to do with Noah Fifita, getting him back on track. Noah was really good 2 years ago under Fish, was bad last year. That whole offense was bad. And then to be able to do what he's done with Noah Fifita is really impressive. I don't think it's decided. I think it'll be decided in the next 2 games because it's wide open. But, if he plays well these next 2 games, I think he has a really good shot at it.
Is Fifita back next year?
Yeah, he's got 1 more year.
Wow. Arizona could be one of the favorites in the Big 12 next year with Fifita back with the season he's having. And Dagey, as you mentioned, what he's been able to unlock a year after Noah Fifita looked completely lost. Year 1 under Brent Brennan. Should be a lot of fun. Jason Scheer, always appreciate your time. Wildcat Authority, go check out the great work that he and his team do at Wildcat Authority and the Wildcat Authority podcast. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Always great to visit with Wildcat Authority's Jason Scheer. here on Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. We are presented by Modelo. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today. Coming up next, we've been talking about these games all week. All right, it's time to pick them. That's next. This is Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. Taman Turner is our producer. We've also got Will Connerly learning as well. We're coming to you from the Big 12 studios here. Check out where you could find and stream Big 12 studios, Big12studios.com, Tubi, Roku, Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, plenty of other platforms. Big12studios.com is where you can find us. And, of course, always on TuneIn. Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Games of the week this week. Baylor at Arizona. We just talked with Jason Shear from Wildcat Authority. You can hear that game as a part of the Games of the Week on Big 12 Radio. All included with TuneIn. Just download the app, and voila, you get Baylor at Arizona at 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. And then BYU at Cincinnati, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, parts of the Games of the Week on Big 12 Radio. All right, James, we've been talking about these games all week. It's time to pick them. James went 5-0 last week, so extending his lead further, 38-23 overall. I'm at 34-27 after going 3-2 last week. Stormy Warren, our buddy from the Big 615, is absent from picking this week, so we'll just skip him. But James, since you won last week, you have to pick first. And Taman, our producer, which games are we picking?
All right, guys, let's start off with Kansas at Iowa State -4.5.
Well, the picture is crystallizing for why Ari's chosen violence today. I'm tired of picking these games every week. Ari, I need you to come through this week, okay?
Wow.
Harsh.
That hurts my feelings, James. Hope you're happy.
Call me Mike O'Donnell. All right, I'm going with, we're starting with Kansas and Iowa State. Yeah, give me Kansas, all right? The only thing that scares me about this game is Iowa State's defense is much better at home. They give up about 75 fewer yards per game at Jack Trice versus on the road. But something tells me Jalen Daniels is about to go off. Did you see the highlight of him and his last-second Hail Mary against Arizona? Everybody's like, holy smokes, this guy has a cannon. He bombed that thing like 70 yards in the air and threw it out of the back of the end zone. Kansas
So
is
you're picking
relatively
Kansas
healthy.
because on a Hail Mary he threw the ball in the back of the end zone?
No, I just wanted to note it. Okay, we haven't talked about it this week,
You're
and
right.
I think it's relevant to this conversation. Give me Kansas. Kansas is still top 30 in points per play. I like the Hawks to have a big day offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I think this comes down to, will the real Iowa State defense please stand up? Because, we saw Iowa State get shredded in the back end of their defense for 5 weeks. And did they figure some things out last week where they looked significantly better? You mentioned the home and road splits, home game. I'm not buying it from Kansas. Give me Iowa State to win, beat the Jayhawks, and cover 4.5 points. I'm taking Iowa State -4.5.
All right, next one.
Ooh.
Oh, go ahead, James.
No, just a little ooh. It was just a sound effect from me. I thought for sure you'd be all over your Kansas Jayhawks in this one.
No.
No faith. Ari has no faith in Kansas in football and basketball. My goodness. All right, next one. Baylor at Arizona.
I do in soccer, by the way. Women's soccer to the Sweet 16 for the first time ever for Kansas, so I'm all in on women's soccer. What'd you say, sorry?
Huge.
Next one. Baylor at Arizona.
What's the line?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I apologize about that. Baylor at Arizona -6.5.
I like Arizona. 7-3, 4-3 in Big 12 play. Baylor's still putting up all the yards in the world. They're 10th in the country in yards per game. 464 yards per game. But they're 5-5 and they can't stop anybody. And Arizona at home, down there in the zoo, I just think Noah Fafita is going to continue to have big games against that leaky Baylor defense. I don't see any way that Baylor can keep up with what Fafita in that ground game. They thrive on takeaways, and their passing defense is top 10 in the country. Give me Arizona.
Yeah, and it feels like this number should be higher with it being a road game, with it being as bad as Baylor's defense has been this year against, who we think is the offensive MVP of the Big 12. So you've got Noah Fafita, who's, in my opinion, the offensive MVP in the Big 12, against a defense that has been extremely porous. They do score some points, but I don't think it's 6.5's enough. I think Arizona wins and cruises by more than a touchdown. Give me Arizona -6.5.
Next one on the list. James's Kansas State at Utah -17.
Man, 17 is a big number. And I went back and looked, and Kansas State has only lost by 17 or more like twice in the last 5 years.
Wow.
With that said, I just don't see any way that K-State keeps this close at all. We have seen a lifeless K-State team. They're only averaging 350 yards per game against some of the lighter defenses in the Big 12. I don't think K-State can score in this game, especially without Jace Brown at wide receiver. Scoring is going to be a problem. And K-State's been really strong in turnover creation. They're top 15 nationally in sacks and interceptions, and they're second best in the country in fumble recoveries. But a lot of that was when Tobi Osunami was healthy, when Austin Romaine was on the field, and those guys are both out. They also lose a couple guys in their secondary. I don't see Utah having any problem gashing that K-State defense. This feels like just a bloodbath. Unfortunately for my Wildcats, I am taking Utah.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Like, K-State rarely loses by 17 or more, but K-State right now has been decimated by injury. It feels like they're just shutting guys down if it's close. Like, Austin Romaine was playing with a club on his hand and then decided to have hand surgery, and now he's been out for the year now. Tobi Osunsanmi, like, you start there. So you know it's coming. You know they're going to run the football, and your two best defenders against the run are not playing. Yeah, this thing's not going to be close in any way. Like, if it is, give all kinds of credit to Chris Kleiman for making it close, because just feels like this blowout city here. Utah by at least 17.
TCU at Houston -1.5.
-1.5. Houston favored at home. It's senior day for the Cougars. This is the most disrespectful line I've ever seen in my life. And maybe Vegas knows something that we're missing.
The looks you just got in studio, I wish you could see it, James. Everybody was just...
It is the most disrespectful line I've ever seen in my life. Houston only favored by 1.5. Red zone offense, they're 8th in the country. Red zone defense for TCU, 121st. Teams score against TCU in the red zone. Time of possession, Houston top 30 nationally. TCU 114th. It's going to be hustle against explosives. TCU is also 103rd in the country in penalties. Houston top 25. The discipline edge goes to Houston. And then you pile on all the injuries that TCU has sustained in the last couple of weeks. They have the longest, most impactful, I think, injury report in the conference this week. This screams Houston to win this game and win it by at least a touchdown. Give me the Cougs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's the most disrespectful line ever, but yeah, it certainly seems to be pretty disrespectful. I'll take Houston -1.5. This is, for me, the easiest play of the weekend. I mean, this is a team that still has something to play for against a team that's trending downward, and I think that the Houston defense will be able to turn over Josh Hoover, which has been his major problem this year. So give me Houston to cover 1.5.
All right, final one, guys. BYU -2.5 at Cincinnati.
BYU, Cincy, 2.5. Nippert Stadium at night is a different animal. But BYU, with everything on the line for them, I think the difference between this year's BYU team and last year's is last year we kind of saw BYU flirting with disaster this time of year. This year, I think BYU is only getting better, and that was on display the way they crushed TCU last weekend. Bear Bachmeier continues to improve as a passer. BYU's +8 in turnover margin. That's 12th in the country. Cincinnati is also a team that's 130th in the country in penalty yards per game, and you can't make those type of mistakes against a BYU team that feasts on field position and leverage rate and all those things. I think BYU goes on the road, and maybe it's close, but I do think they cover and they get the win.
Yeah, you know, what's really interesting about this game is, number one, I don't know that the road part matters here for BYU, because BYU has played really well on the road. I mean, beating Arizona, Iowa State on the road, you know, two bowl teams. They, I mean, have that win against Utah, which is basically kind of a neutral site win to a degree. But then also Colorado, East Carolina road wins too. So East Carolina at night was not an easy one. The other part, though, that stands out to me, and I don't know if this is good or bad for BYU, though their passing game seems to be improving, Cincinnati's defense has been torched by good passing attacks. Remember, Kansas, in a loss, put up 445 yards passing. Iowa State, 315 yards passing. Arizona had 294 against Cincinnati's defense. So I feel like Bachmeier trending up in the passing game will be able to exploit a major weakness for Cincinnati. Give me BYU, and I would happily take this at 5 points, to be honest. I think this is at least a touchdown spread. Give me BYU minus 2.5 in this one.
Yeah, totally agree. Let me, just to add to what you were saying about Cincinnati and who they've played and the type of games they've had. Okay, so in their 3 losses against Nebraska, Utah, and Arizona, Brendan Sorsby has completed 52% of his passes, 33% and 53. He's thrown for 69 yards, 221, and 154. He has 4 interceptions and 2 touchdowns in those 3 games. My point is, he has been really good putting up like PlayStation-type numbers against the lesser defenses on their schedule. But when they play some of the big dogs like a Nebraska defense, Arizona, and Utah, he has really struggled. It's been a night and day difference in their passing game.
Yeah, you're completely right there. And again, I mean, I think like the one thing we know about the Big 12 this year is there's not as much parity, especially amongst the top tier of the Big 12. That's what we've seen so far. So when it comes to Utah and BYU and Texas Tech, they have not struggled with teams outside of that group of 3. I mean, Utah has literally lost to BYU and Texas Tech. Now, Tech lost an Arizona State team that was way fully healthier than they are now, and BYU has the one loss to Tech. So any team outside of that grouping seems to be getting blown out by these 3 teams in BYU, Utah, and Texas Tech. And I think the big reason for that, James, is because it starts up front on both lines of scrimmage.
And I'll be really surprised if this doesn't further magnify the gap between the top 3 in the Big 12 and everybody else. Cincinnati, to me, has had a really strong year. But I think Cincinnati's in that next tier with Arizona State and Houston and that grouping of teams, whereas you've got BYU, Utah, Texas Tech in this very clear top 3, the big 3 of the Big 12. So we're on the same page. How many discrepancies did we have this week?
Just one. That would be the Kansas-Iowa State game. You've got the Jayhawks plus 4.5, and I've got the Cyclones covering 4.5 at home. Other than that, we're both on Arizona minus 6.5, both on Utah minus 17, both on Houston minus 1.5, and BYU minus 2.5. Any path to victory for K-State? You are so down on your Wildcats, man. You know, it's funny. Yesterday we argued in Let's Get It On about who's more on a hot seat, Chris Kleiman or Sonny Dykes, and I said it's not even close. Feels like the temperature in Manhattan is very down right now on Chris Kleiman.
It's basketball season, Ari. It's basketball season in Manhattan, Kansas. Okay? Yes, I'm very down on the football team. I mean, this has been a really rocky year, and I don't know that I can remember a year where K-State failed this short of preseason expectations. Like, usually they're overachieving based off of what the fans think, based off of where they're projected to finish in the Big 12. But, like, everybody had K-State pegged as a major contender, and a lot of people liked them to make the Big 12 championship game. So to be 5-5 at this point in time and have a game next weekend against Colorado to just try and scrape to a bowl game, yeah, I'm real down. Now I see that there's potential for K-State to have a bounce back year next year, but this year has been it's been a mess for Kansas State.
All right, this is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. And a reminder that as we get closer and closer to the Big 12 Championship, that you need to be checking out all of the Big 12 Championship ticketing options available to you, including the Party Pit passes. Get your Party Pit passes ready for the John Pardee Party Pit at the Big 12 Championship game. John Pardee will be performing at halftime of the Big 12 Football Championship at 11 a.m. on December 6th, just a couple of weeks away. The game is broadcasted on ABC and, of course, being played at AT&T Stadium. John is the Big 12's first country music headliner at its football championship. He's going to be joined in the performance by the marching bands from both participating universities. There's going to be a party pit of premium experience in front of the stage with tickets available to be purchased. John's recent single, Mr. Saturday Night, has been featured in a number of Big 12 football championship spots during game broadcasts. Tickets for the 2025 Big 12 football championship, including Party Pit passes, Available on sale exclusively through SeatGeek. Check out SeatGeek now, the exclusive ticketing partner of the Big 12 for your Big 12 football championship tickets, and get a move on it. Of course, the Big 12 championship picture will be a lot clearer following Saturday's games. Will it be decided? Multiple things have to happen. We shall see. But, of course, this weekend will go a long way. All right, this is Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, on TuneIn, and Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, along with James Westling on social at James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin on social at Ari Sports. Crazy active Friday. We've got Thanksgiving week next week. And it feels like, James, once Thanksgiving hits, that it's basically Christmas and New Year's. Like the month between Thanksgiving and then Christmas and New Year's. And it, from a business standpoint, doesn't seem like much gets done. It's an interesting time of year that we're about to hit. It goes fast, and it's week 13 of the college football season, and the Big 12 championship game's a few weeks away. It's like this thing's going to be over quickly, and football, basketball's in full swing now. There's a lot going on, man. It's fun.
Now, how much of a role do you have in your household when it comes to Christmas shopping?
The role.
Okay. Because you're the shopper of the family. So have you started with your Christmas list? I mean, you've got kids, you've got extended family, you've got your wife. When does that all come to light?
Yeah, I'd say for Hanukkah, it's probably more of the kids and wife thing than it is more of the extended family.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing thing. You sort of, there's like because I'm very active on many of these deal sites where there's like websites that give you great deals that are going on, that scour the internet to find these deals. Like I find a Lego set that's like, oh yeah, that one, my kids love that. Like I buy that over the course of the year. So I just accumulate a large composite of toys and different things over the course of the year that I then save for Hanukkah.
Wow, this is year round. I'm impressed. You had me at websites that scour the web to find the best deals.
Yeah.
Because I'm all about the deals. Deals for days.
Deals for days. Gotta go deals.
What are these websites and how do I get my hands on them?
We'll talk.
Okay.
Don't call me. I'll call you.
Okay, great. Awesome. So never. We just started the what are we going to do in terms of gifts for the kids chat last night, which was a little bit alarming. I panic this time of year thinking about how much money will be spent in the next 30 days. So it's fine. It's fine. I'll talk myself off the ledge and we'll get everybody gifts.
What's your role in all of this?
Pretty much non-existent, I would say. Yeah, not much of a role at all. I've got something planned, something nice for my wife for Christmas. So I'm, starting the process of that, which is basically I've come up with the idea. It's just making it all happen. When it comes to the kids, my daughter's 13, so she'll text me a list of stuff that she wants. It's the little ones that, it's a surprise is what I say. Every Christmas is a surprise. It's a surprise for them. It's a surprise for me.
Wow, that was a whole lot of nothing. All right, plenty to get to on the hardwood from last night and heading into this weekend. On the women's side of things, a big win last night for Iowa over Baylor. The Baylor Lady Bears lost for the first time this season. 7th-ranked Baylor lost to the WBCA Showcase against 19th-ranked Iowa, 57-52 in a really good basketball game. So Iowa stays undefeated at 5-0. Baylor falls to 4-1. Just a high-level matchup. And then Texas Tech hands Mississippi State its first loss of the season. Texas Tech is off to a scorching hot start in a huge year for them. Texas Tech now 6-0 after their 69-62 victory over Mississippi State last night. Also on Wednesday night, Kansas with a big win over Minnesota, 63-57. That's on the women's side of things. But last night, on the men's side of things, really tough loss for the Big 12. Maybe the worst Big 12 loss of the season so far. Cal Poly 92, Utah 85. Utah at the Huntsman Center was a 15-point favorite, and Cal Poly basically led wire to wire in this one. As a team, Cal Poly shot 56% from beyond the arc, hitting 14 threes. They also out-rebounded the Utes 42-32. Cal Poly shot 30 of 60 overall from the field, but hit 14 threes and led wire to wire. Terrence Brown was really good for Utah with 29 points, including 2 of 5 from 3 assists, a steal, and a block in 35 minutes, but really tough loss for Utah last night against Cal Poly.
Yeah, that wasn't good. It wasn't good. Terrence Brown had a big game. He was 11 of 18, had 29 points for the Utes, but just defensively, they didn't show up, and Cal Poly shot the cover off the ball. I mean, a team going 14 for 25 from beyond the arc. There's some nights where the other team is just shooting lights out. And I think that was part of it. But also this is part of the growing pains for Alex Jensen in his first year. I mean, he had to assemble an entirely new roster. There's going to be nights like this. So I'm not ready to hit the panic button quite yet on Utah, considering what the preseason expectations probably are for them. They're going to suffer some L's that maybe we don't see coming because of how new this team and this program is. You know, I like the fact that they kept up offensively, but yeah, giving up 92 points to a Cal Poly team, that's not going to be good in Big 12 play.
Well, and Cal Poly is 3-3 now. They had losses to USC, Colorado State, and Montana. So, you know, we'll see how the rest of the season goes for Cal Poly, but that does not look like a very good loss at all. On the other side, some big wins from a Power 5 standpoint with UCF knocking off Pitt last night, 77-67. Riley Kugel with 18 points. That one for the Knights. They're off to a 5-1 start. Your Wildcats get a 98-77 victory over Mississippi State in the Hall of Fame Classic. PJ Haggerty goes for 37 in that one. Arizona State knocks off Hawaii, 83-76. And then in Baha Mar, in the Bahamas, the Baha Mar Championship, it's Texas Tech 84, Wake Forest 83. This was a really good basketball game last night and sets up an opportunity here for Texas Tech to play number 1 ranked Purdue. But this was a really good basketball game last night, James. And, I thought Christian Anderson was phenomenal in this one for Texas Tech. He was the closer for Tech in this one, 16 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds. Also, 22 assisted field goals on 28 makes for Texas Tech. Shows you how well they move the basketball. And then JT Toppin, once again, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. So huge win for Tech. And Wake Forest coming in, had one of the best 3-point percentage defenses in the country. And Texas Tech went 12 of 35, 34%. So shot well, knocked off Wake Forest. Good win for Texas Tech last night. Sets up Texas Tech and Purdue today.
Yeah, Texas Tech and Purdue is going to be a banger. We've got an outstanding Friday lineup with that game and then BYU and Wisconsin, which is a rematch of that NCAA tournament thriller that BYU won in the round of 32 last year, 91-89. Wisconsin is really good this year. They're doing things that they haven't done since the 70s, albeit against lesser competition to start the season. They're undefeated. And then I was really impressed by UCF last night. I watched a good chunk of that game, and UCF has got a club. They have, 2 wins now over Power 4 opponents. They beat Texas A&M and beat them soundly. And then even last night, the final was a little bit misleading. I mean, this game was never in doubt for UCF. This was on a neutral floor. This was part of the Skyscraper Legends Classic. This wasn't a home game for UCF, and they were clearly the better team. Riley Kugel's the real deal. He had 18. And then when are we going to start talking about the best team in the state of Kansas might wear purple this year? Because the Wildcats of Kansas State pounded Mississippi State 98-77. ESPN had Mississippi State with a 68% chance of winning that game on their analytic matchup predictor. PJ Haggerty set a T-Mobile scoring record. He's done things that no K-Stater has done since Michael Beasley to start a season with 37 points. Also had 8 assists and 7 rebounds in that game. Abdi Bashir was 4 for 6 from 3. Like K-State, I thought to start the year that K-State, the way they were shooting the basketball, it was maybe a fluke. But we're 5 games in, and they still lead the nation in 3-point field goal percentage. They shot 47% last night from 3 and over 50% for the game. Only had 8 turnovers. Like, that was a huge problem last year. I'm starting to believe a little bit that the Wildcats are legit, at least offensively.
All right, so you started that off by saying, when are we going to talk about the best basketball team in the state of Kansas wearing purple?
Yeah, when are we going to start talking about K-State maybe being the best team in the state of Kansas?
I mean, do you want to start it? Why don't you go ahead, James? It sounds like you're ready to start that conversation.
I mean, should we start it? I mean, K-State's 5-0. They've got one of the best scoring guards in the country. He's healthy.
And I'm assuming they've also played North Carolina and Duke as well in that 5-0 start, yes?
No. They've played teams like Tulsa and Mississippi State. Now, they do play Nebraska tonight.
Ooh, Nebraska! Ooh.
The fighting Fred Hoibergs. Now, with that said, I thought K-State would get beat last night. What I saw from Kansas State against Tulsa, I didn't think they'd beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State, this Hubbard kid is the real deal. He's an all-SEC player. They were in the NCAA tournament last year. They have a lot of guys coming back. They've got a really good coach in Chris Jans. I thought Mississippi State would win the game. They were favored. So for Kansas State to win by 21, to score almost 100 points in this game, like it makes me believe that K-State is much improved from last year, Ari.
Yeah, impressive win. And the game was where, James?
It was on a neutral floor at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. It was a neutral game.
Yeah, neutral floor in Kansas City. No, impressive win. And, I mean, Kansas, who, until Kansas State beats them in basketball, will still be the best basketball team in the state of Kansas. They played teams like UNC, whereas K-State's played teams like UNC Greensboro. So, bit of a difference there. Now, yeah, they're 5-0. Kansas is 3-2, so off to a good start. They play at Indiana a couple of days before before Thanksgiving, so that'll be a big one. And then beyond that, I mean, they had at Creighton. Not many major tune-ups before Big 12 play starts in terms of big-time competition.
I mean, they're not North Carolina and Duke. I'll give you that. But have you seen what Darren DeFries is doing at Indiana? They're 5-0, and they look really good.
No surprises here. No surprises here.
Yeah, he's a really good coach. They've got Seton Hall coming up at Creighton, but K-State looks a lot better than they did this time last year. And I watched a little bit of Doug McDaniel at Memphis, and if K-State traded P.J. Haggerty for Doug McDaniel because Haggerty was at Memphis last year, K-State no doubt got the better end of that trade. Like, Haggerty is a dude, and he's a closer, he's a scorer, he's also a catalyst. Like, he makes the players around him better. My concern is still, can Kansas State guard anybody and rebound? But last night, somehow, some way, they forced a lot of turnovers. They had a +4 edge on the glass. They had a 17-4 advantage on fast break points. It was the most well-rounded effort I've seen from a K-State team in a really long time, especially this early in the season.
Well, and all joking aside, I mean, I think big picture, like these wins, Mississippi State, Wake Forest, again, I know I'm continuing to beat this drum, but it's so important to note that, like, once you get to January, you're just playing other Big 12 teams. So there's really no way to improve the status from a quad 1, quad 2, et cetera standpoint. So, like, keep piling up these wins, Texas Tech against Power 5 opponents, and once you get into Big 12 play, the majority of games will be quad 1 games for Big 12 teams. And remember, that's important because a quad 1 loss doesn't hurt you in terms of candidacy for the NCAA tournament. So right now, I think the Big 12 is off to a blazing hot start in terms of their status and solidifying as the number 1 conference in America. Because when you look at Big 12 ACC, Big 12 SEC, Big 12 Big 10, like, there's been a dominance here overall, and today will be a big day in that regard as well.
Totally agree. And the teams that are projected to be in the middle or even bottom part are more than carrying their weight.
Yeah.
Like that is what this early part of the season has shown me. Wins over Pitt, wins over a Wake Forest, Colorado beating Providence, Oklahoma State being 2-0 against power opponents. Like, Houston is certainly carrying the weight at the top with BYU and Texas Tech and the other teams that we knew in Arizona and their 3 marquee wins, the most impressive resume in the entire country. Even Iowa State has a nice win over a power opponent. Like, the teams at the top are doing what we thought they would do. There's no surprises there. If anything, they've been better than expected. And then these teams in the middle are really, really doing some good things for the conference, beating the Pitts and the Wake Forests and the Providences and the Mississippi States of the world. I'm with you, man. This is the best basketball conference in America, and I don't think it's close this year. I don't think it's close. Like, there's not a Florida. There's not an Auburn. There's not anybody from the SEC that the Big 12, I don't think, is right there with.
Well, there are a bunch of games on today. So James will be on the call at 2 o'clock, so 3 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Mountain Time between Wisconsin and BYU. That's 2 ranked teams, and obviously Big 12, Big 10. At 5:30 Central tonight, the Hoops Classic, Louisville and Cincinnati, 2 4-0 teams. Louisville is 6th in the nation. Then also on at 5:30 in the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic, it's West Virginia and Clemson. So another ACC Big 12 matchup. Clemson's been a perennial tournament team. They're 4-1. Texas Tech Purdue, the number 1 team in the country. What a matchup there in Baha Mar in the Bahamas. And then K-State Nebraska. So, I mean, every game on the docket for today and tonight is Power 5 for the Big 12. The only one that's not is UC Davis in Colorado. So a huge day today in this regard as well, where you just got to keep winning. And, again, once it comes down to it, when you get into January, all those wins stack up and give you more quad one opportunities in Big 12 play.
It is so freaking awesome to see all these high-profile matchups on this Friday.
Yeah, it is.
And then next week is really the big MTE tournament week. You've got the Players Era tournament starting on the 24th. It's going to have, 3-4 teams from the Big 12 in it. So there's going to be marquee matchups there. And the Big 12, tonight if the Big 12 gets a split, I'll be happy. I mean, that's how big these games are. And if you get a split in quad one, quad two games for a conference or even an individual school, that's a massive win. So, I don't know where the wins come from, but if K-State or if the Big 12 goes above 500 with this slate of games, it just further magnifies the fact that this is the best conference in America. And I think Texas Tech can beat Purdue.
Yeah.
I really do. That game's tonight at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central on CBS Sports Network, that Baja Mar Championship. There's no reason Texas Tech can't beat that Purdue team that got a scare from Memphis last night.
Yeah. And to answer your question, in the Players Era tournament, which starts on Monday in Vegas, Kansas, Baylor, Iowa State, Houston, all participants for the Big 12. So Monday matchups, Kansas, Notre Dame, Creighton, Baylor, St. John's, Iowa State, and Syracuse, Houston. Plus, Arizona State is going to Maui. They take on Texas at the Maui Invitational on Monday night as well. So, yeah, next week, huge week for these Thanksgiving tournaments, and should be a lot of fun to follow everything going on. And, by the way, that Kansas State-Indiana game next week is in Bloomington, so not part of the MTE circuit. Big 12 Radio.
No, it's a straight-up road game.
Yeah. Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We are presented by Modelo. Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin, and a huge weekend ahead. Big 12 Today is presented by Modelo and heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We talked a ton about the football weekend ahead, basketball weekend ahead, both on the men's and women's side. It's also half of the Sweet 16 field is already set now for the women's soccer tournament, with Colorado from the Big 12 punching its ticket with its win over Xavier 4-1. Also Kansas, first time ever for Kansas women's soccer to be in the Sweet 16, knocking off Louisville last night 3-1. They'll take on Duke. Duke knocked off UCF 1-0. So it's Duke and Kansas next weekend in the Sweet 16. Still to go in games that will play tonight or today. TCU and Memphis, 2-seeded TCU, playing Memphis this afternoon. And then the winner of that game will take on the winner of Texas Tech and North Carolina in a game that will be at 4 o'clock Central this afternoon. So could potentially get TCU and Texas Tech in the Sweet 16. Also, Baylor punching its ticket to the Sweet 16. Baylor knocked off Wisconsin 1-0, so they will take on Ohio State. Ohio State upset number 1 overall seed Notre Dame in double overtime. Ohio State over Notre Dame. So Ohio State, Baylor now in the Sweet 16, James. So a lot of fun things going on. Also, BYU and UCLA will play later tonight, 6 o'clock Central, and they will take on the winner of Stanford, Alabama in the Sweet 16. So 3 teams already in out of the Big 12, Colorado, Kansas, and Baylor, with the opportunity to get BYU, Tech, and TCU, 3 more into the Sweet 16 out of the Big 12.
Man, that's impressive. What a run by everybody, but also BYU. Like, they were an 8 seed going into the women's soccer tournament. For them to win the championship and then continue their run in the NCAA tournament, what a time to be alive at BYU. I mean, across the board, is there a sport that BYU isn't dominating in right now? I mean, they're in the conversation in football, men's basketball, women's soccer. They had a huge track and field showing and cross country. They are just a program that has been such a huge addition to this conference, not just in one sport, but in so many.
Yeah.
Also, did you see, we were talking about James Blanchard earlier, the Texas Tech general manager, and the sit-down interview that he did with The Athletic. Perfect timing. They also just received a commitment yesterday from wide receiver Benny Easter Jr. He is the number 5 wide receiver in the class of 2027 in the nation. The number 5 wide receiver in the nation. Dude looks like a freak. He's headed to Texas Tech. So they are selective, and they are getting guys like elite 5-star prospects, not just from the portal now, but also from the high school ranks as well.
Yeah, no, well said. And look, the 2027 class for Texas Tech is really, at this point, looking like it could be an all-timer. Now, there's still plenty of time, and hopefully they don't lose some of those commitments. I don't think there's any reason to think they will, but it's always hard to project this out this early. But the commitments they've gotten for 2027 are impressive, man. This is going to be one of the top classes in the country when it's all said and done for Texas Tech.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I'm looking at the team rankings right now, okay? So for 2027, Texas Tech has the 4th ranked recruiting class in the nation.
And how many commitments do they have?
They have 5. They have 2 5-stars, 2 4-stars, and 1 3-star. So at least for 27, they're hitting that blue chip ratio. There's only 3 other teams in the country that have better classes right now, and it's Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's it. Texas Tech is number 4.
Wow. I mean, that says a lot.
And let me see, what 2026, okay? So for 2026, which most of these programs this late in the season are done at the high school level, right? So this shouldn't change much. They're 18th in the country. They have 20 commitments. They have 2 5-stars and 5 4-stars, and then they have 13 very selected 3-stars. So 18th is not bad. I would say much higher than what they were in terms of high school recruiting in recent years. BYU has the number 21 recruiting class in the country, so we're seeing some Big 12 programs starting to crack the top 25 when it comes to high school recruiting ranks. We've always been really solid in the portal rankings, but to see the Big 12 this high in the high school recruiting rankings, I think is really, really good.
Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today, heard exclusively on TuneIn to watch.Big 12 Studios. We are presented by the Full-Time Fans of Modelo, and Full-Time Fans are tuning into all things Big 12, of course, with the soccer tournament and NCAA tournament this weekend, continuing Sweet 16, basketball, football, everything, cross-country, etc. There's a lot going on right now in Big 12 sports, so cheers to you, the Full-Time Fan, brought to you by Modelo. Okay. This week, one of the big stories was the situation in Tempe with the future of Sam Leavitt. You know, it's clear that Leavitt, as many other players, especially at the quarterback position, are trying to, create the greatest value they possibly can. And there was a report this week from On3 Sports that Sam Leavitt is unlikely to return to Arizona State next year. Here's what Kenny Dillingham said when asked by the media about if he's spoken with Sam Leavitt.
Oh, yeah, he's doing great. I mean, on the road to recovery. We've had lots of conversations. I mean, Sam's my guy. I have a great relationship with Sam. Everything I've ever said about him is absolutely true.
All right, so great comments there from Kenny Dillingham. Obviously, we know Kenny to be transparent and genuine and honest, and certainly some honesty there, even though he was sort of avoiding why the question was even asked.
Yeah, but I also think the way he asked the question, this has been going on for a while, and Chris Karpman did a great job of elaborating on that. Behind the scenes, these conversations have been taking place, and I think that this will be handled. I don't think there's going to be any bad blood between Leavitt's camp and Kenny Dillingham and what he's trying to build at Arizona State. I think that those conversations will be really transparent. This isn't going to be like a Rob Wright pulling the rug out from Baylor and transferring to BYU type deal like we saw this offseason in basketball. Like, if Sam Leavitt's going to leave, they will have enough time, knowing he's going to leave, that they'll be able to take whatever dollar amount had been set aside for him and go find a replacement for next season. And he might not be top 10 first-round NFL draft pick type talent that they acquire, but they'll still be able to find a piece that fits their system. So I understand why this has been blown, I don't want to say out of proportion, because it is a big story. But Arizona State's going to be okay either way. There's just something about the way Dillingham handles that transparency level within the walls at Arizona State that I'm not that worried about it.
Yeah, see, I am, but only from the standpoint of not Leavitt, but Dillingham. And, I guess, I never thought that Dillingham, based on his history, would leave Arizona State until now. And I'm not saying it's likely, but I think that there's greater possibility that he does now more than ever before, based on what we've been talking about. We asked Kenny Dillingham, about this, and what his answer was, I want to be in a place like most coaches where I could win a national championship. And, yeah, Arizona State proved that it could last year, but in the realities of roster management and building, if Kenny Dillingham recognizes that he's not going to have the funds at his disposal at Arizona State that he might have in other places, I don't know if he feels good about his chance of winning a national title at Arizona State. I think that's where it gets a little bit complicated, because obviously it comes down to money here with Leavitt. And if Arizona State feels like we can't be at that level and we can't bring him in, does Kenny Dillingham feel like long-term this is not where he wants to be because he's not going to be able to have that type of money? Or does he see a long-term plan where maybe they aren't there today, but long-term they could be there?
Yeah, and those are all valid points. I think Sam Leavitt will get – I think he will get a deal that Arizona State frankly can't match. There's going to be somebody that's going to come in there. And Kenny Dillingham, I think when he took the job, and what he's probably learned over the last couple of years, is that Arizona State is I don't know that they're ever going to have the NIL budget that some of these other programs have. But with that said, they were close last year, and I think that through roster management and maybe not at the quarterback position, but at other positions, they can have enough NIL to compete for national championships and win Big 12 championships, because we've seen that. We saw them do that last year. My question would be, what is the gap? I think that's what it comes down to. Is the gap so large between what Arizona State can do financially and some of the other programs that is that gap enough to lure him to some other jobs? I think time will tell. But the bottom line is, I think, Arizona State's going to have to see an uptick in their NIL. That's it. If they want to have quarterbacks like Sam Levitt, if they want to have coaches like Kenny Dillingham, if they want to compete and win Big 12 championships and make the college football playoff, there's going to have to be an increase from where they are now.
Yeah. No, well said. All right. Here's what Jeff Sims said this week for Arizona State's game against Colorado as they look to continue to pile up wins. Sims, it looks like we'll have Jordan Tyson back in the lineup this week.
It's always good to see, JT come to work every day. He want to be on the field bad. And everybody supporting him, everybody got his back. So just seeing him try to get out there, it means the world to us. He's a game changer. He's a great player. And hopefully he can get back on the field. But if not, he's a top 5 pick. He got to be healthy before he get back out there.
And the latest availability report, remember these are updated from basically Wednesday night through game day. And the latest last night puts Jordan Tyson at questionable. So we'll see if he's upgraded into Saturday. But yeah, questionable on Wednesday night's availability report and then questionable again on Thursday night's availability report. So certainly trending up. There didn't seem to be much signs that Tyson will be back, and yet here it is, and could be a huge boost for Arizona State as they're on the cusp, of what, 9 wins if they won out? Are they at 7 right now? 7-3? Yeah. So they went out, they win against Colorado, and then win at home against Arizona in a huge rivalry matchup. They could be 9-3 in a year, which played the majority of the season without Levitt, Tyson, and Xavier Alford. Just an amazing season for them.
Yeah, and I don't think I would put Tyson on the field this weekend unless he's definitely 100%, because I'd want to make sure I have him for the Arizona game. But I also think that this probably Jordan Tyson needs to be on the field if he wants to improve his NFL draft stock. It's getting to the point where he's missed so many games over the last 2 years. I wonder if it's starting to impact where he could potentially be drafted in the 26 NFL draft. He was expected to be a top 10 pick coming into this season, and he's missed a lot of time. That could scare away some NFL general managers. I'm glad that we had Jeff Sims in that clip, because I saw this last night. I watched this 4-minute video. It's really cool at Sun Devil Source. They have a student that is highlighting, social media can be, and this is word for word what he says, social media can be a dark, hate-filled void for many college athletes.
Yes.
To bring light to the tunnel, a group of Arizona State football fans have created curated Instagram pages to make sure every Sun Devil gets their proper shine.
Nice.
And they deep dive, and they show highlight packages, and they interview these athletes. They have created fan pages for the Arizona State football players, which is awesome. And Jeff Sims was part of this initial piece that they did last night. And, man, some of the stuff he was saying about how impactful social media can be and how a dark, hate-filled place it can be for student athletes, man, it wears on these guys. And to see something, that's the other side of that coin, the positive angle of it, these fan pages to encourage and enlighten and inspire these college football players is really awesome to see.
Yeah, no, I'm great. I'm so glad you pointed that out. That's a great call. All right, Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. Heard on TuneIn to watch Big 12 Studios. We close this thing out with what could have been an email. The biggest stories from this week that probably just could have been an email. That's next. This is Big 12 Radio. Big 12 Today with James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin. Great to have you with us today and every day here at your home for the Big 12 TuneIn and Big 12 Studios, presented by Modelo. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, powered by Modelo, along with James Wesley. I am Ari Tepkin. Taman Turner is our producer, also Will Connerly. Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Search big12studios.com to find all the platforms where you can find Big 12 Studios. And a reminder that our games of the week this week on the Big 12, on Big 12 Radio. Baylor at Arizona, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern time. And then BYU at Cincinnati, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Should be a lot of fun with all of the pomp and circumstance surrounding Big Noon being at Cincinnati for the Nip at Night game between BYU and Cincinnati. All right, a segment we do each and every Friday, which of the big stories from the weekend or from the week, which ones just could have been an email, and a segment we called This Could Have Been an Email. James, you have anything that could have been an email this week?
Of course I do, Ari. Of course I do. I am bound and determined to finally share this damn story that I've been trying to tell all week that I listened to on a podcast because I want to get your thoughts. And when it's over, you're probably going to say this could have been an email.
I mean, no joke. You've been trying to talk about this podcast for a week, and I think you really want to let everybody that's listening to this know that you're really sophisticated and smart because you listen to podcasts.
This isn't even a sophisticated or smart podcast. It's just random storytelling. But okay. I want you to hear this story because you're a guy that loves the paranormal activity. Am I right?
Yeah, love is probably a stretch, but yeah, sure.
You're obsessed with it. It's all you think about night and day. All right, so this is a true story. In 1986, this happened in Massachusetts. So this family, dad, mom, 2 daughters, 15 and 9. The mom dies of cancer. Happens really quick. It's abrupt. And this family is really struggling. The dad's, all of a sudden, he's a single-income dad. The wife, who passed away, was a large chunk of the family income. So he starts working a lot of extra hours. And so the girls are in the house alone a lot more. Well, one night they get out a Ouija board. And they're trying to reconnect with their mom. So they do the whole Ouija board thing, and nothing really comes to light. But then a few days later, they start hearing, like, tapping sounds in the basement. Eventually, they're convinced that it is the ghost of their dead mother that is trying to speak to them. Are you paying attention, Ari? What are you doing on your phone?
Yes, Ouija board, their mom. Yes, I got it. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, I just want to make sure you're locked in. So they think their mom is in the basement. Well, eventually, they start hearing these tapping sounds like in their bedroom, under their bed, etc.
Wow.
Well, the dad doesn't believe me, thinks they're crazy. Well, he ends up eventually starting to think that maybe they're onto something. Like he comes home one day and he's been with the girls and the furniture is slightly moved and objects are vanishing and reappearing, stuff like that. The TV's on, channels are all flipped around. So one night they get home and written on one of the walls in the kitchen, it says, "Marry me. I'm in your room. Come and find me." And so they go upstairs, and this figure comes out of the closet in a bedroom where, like, it was the only room that had the lights off or something. It kind of chases them all upstairs. Well, one of the girls jumps out of the window, and she runs to a neighbor, and she says, "There's a man in our house. We think it's a ghost. He chased us upstairs." And all of a sudden, the dad's all in, right? So the dad thinks that they're being haunted by this ghost. So they get the cops involved, and the cops come, and they watch the house for like 3 weeks. The family lives at a neighbor's house. The dad keeps working. The girls are all freaked out. Well, about 3 weeks in, they're convinced that nothing's going on. Everything's fine. They can move back into the home. So they move back into the home.
Oh, so what are the police going to do? Arrest the ghost?
Well, the police don't think there's a ghost. They're just kind of...
Right, I'm just saying, like, what are the police observing? Like, oh, if we see a ghost here, we're going to put some handcuffs on that ghost and arrest him, take him to prison.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think they're just trying to get these people to get back in their house, essentially.
Yeah.
Right? So one night the dad and the girls are out for dinner or something, and they come back home, and again stuff is moved, and they're really freaked out this time. They're like, okay, this keeps happening. This is like a few days later after they'd moved back in. So they call the cops, and the cops come and they do a search of the house. And one of the cops is they're downstairs in the basement where the family says we keep hearing these sounds. And he's sitting on the washing machine, and he looks back behind the washing machine, and he's like, "Hey, that's weird. There seems to be like a hole or something in the wall." So they go and they pull the washing machine out, and they look, and it turns out there was a 16-year-old kid who had been living inside their walls. 16-year-old Daniel LaPlante had been living inside their walls for months.
What?
And apparently he went to school with one of the daughters and thought that he had a crush on her and she had slighted him. And so he was just basically living inside their walls to mess with them. And
Inside their walls?
He was living inside their walls. I don't know how the house was built. Again, this is back in the 80s, but he had created like a crawl space in this really tight cavity between the walls. And when they found him, he was actually wearing like the wedding dress, the same dress that the shadowy figure from the closet had chased them upstairs. It was him. And he had like painted his face in makeup to look like a clown and look really creepy.
Yeah, that's creepy. This is creeping me out, man.
Yeah, so he'd been
and
moving
a story
through the
about
house.
Ghosts that didn't end with a ghost, I am creeped out.
Yeah, no, it's not a ghost. It's an actual human. Okay? And so they arrest him. They put him away. Well, he gets released on bail. And while he's on bail, he ends up doing this to another family a few blocks away. Except in that case, he actually came out through the wall and murdered the entire family. Ended up getting put away for life.
Yeah, if there's a 16-year-old kid that is living in somebody's walls for an extended period of time, prison may not be the right place for them.
He's a psycho.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, no.
in so few words, yeah. Maybe they made a mistake by not giving him some sort of mental evaluation.
And they did eventually. After the murders, they eventually did that and found that like that they've never seen like a bigger psychopath in the history of all these mental evaluations. He had serious mental stuff.
I mean, yes, yeah.
He lived in a wall. That should be everything you need to know right there. He lived in a wall.
Lived in a wall. So he would be. So they came to find out that like he would leave the walls in the middle of the night, and he would actually go hide under their bed, and he was making these tapping sounds from under their bed, and he was hiding in the closets, and he was just moving freely throughout their home. And then when they were gone, a bunch of weird stuff was going on that they all thought was ghost activity. Like there was one night where they came home, and there was a bunch of pennies that had been taped to the ceiling. And again, this whole time they just thought it was this ghost because they did this Ouija board thing, and they thought it was this ghost that had appeared and was haunting them. And it was actually this guy that one of the daughters went to school with that was inside their house.
Yeah, this definitely could have been an email, because it feels like the whole Ouija board thing, like that was a fun little subplot. But basically, the story here is crazy guy with a crush follows girl home, lives in her walls for months. Nothing happens until the boy's arrested. Boy gets taken out of jail and then does the same thing and kills an entire family. Could have been an email.
Yeah. Could have been an email. That's it.
I don't even want to know where you get your podcast ideas. By the way, if you're looking for reasonable podcasts, just search Big 12 Radio on podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. And nobody, no stories about children living in walls and murdering families on Big 12 Radio. Unless, of course, it's James bringing it up.
Well, I was listening to this, and this guy told this story. It's a lot more detailed than the stuff I went into. I mean, it was like an hour-long story, and he did a great job because the punchline was obviously that there was a guy living in their walls, and that was like the last 5 minutes of the story. Everything else was about, you think this is a ghost, and you think this is paranormal activity. But I was listening to this on a late-night drive home, and I came home to an empty house. Nobody was there except for the pets, and I was freaking out. Like, I combed through that house like the FBI, like a SWAT team, before I laid my pillow down at night.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah, that one will frighten me. I would have been way more optimistic if it was the mom that was actually, doing this as a ghost. That would have been way better. But yeah.
Person.
Well, then they went down the whole rabbit hole of there have been many cases in like these major high-rise apartment complexes where intruders will, like, apparently the walls is a very popular place to hide and to be. And they were talking about this guy in New York City that was actually like climbing from floor to floor through the walls and going through people's mirrors in their closet, and he murdered a bunch of people. It's wild stuff.
That is insane. All right. Taman Turner has taken James's place here on our set at Big 12 Radio, so this better be a good one, Taman. What do you got?
So we've discussed in the past about there are athletes where they do stupid things that we shouldn't be surprised by, and this is not going to come to any surprise. Patrick Beverley, former NBA player, was arrested earlier this week and being charged with third-degree felony assault after striking his 15-year-old sister. Now, Patrick, the details are really, really tough. I mean, they said that the mother had to call because Beverly was being confrontational, that he went after his sister. The affidavit said that the sister had snuck out to meet with a boyfriend, being 18, and Beverly got upset. He grabbed her by her neck, grabbed her by her hands.
Can we do less violence here? What's happening? This has become the most violent talk radio show out there.
Yeah, so...
We've got boys hiding in walls and Patrick Beverley strangling his 15-year-old sister, apparently, allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. And I feel between, a few weeks ago, Antonio Brown got charged with murder. Patrick Beverley's being charged with assault. There are certain athletes, I won't go to the other players.
First of all, attempted murder, Antonio Brown.
Attempted murder.
A very important distinction between murder and attempted murder.
Yes, attempted murder. There are some athletes in sports that we shouldn't be surprised when stories like this happen. And Patrick Beverley is one of them. Patrick Beverley was never a Hall of Famer. He's played on a million teams. He was a journeyman who thought he was better than he actually was. Yes, he was a defensive guy and he made it all first defensive team. But outside of that, nobody cares. This shouldn't be a story. This should be no shock to anyone at all because Patrick Beverley has exhibited erratic behavior. So as I feel for his sister, nobody should be struck like that. This could have been an email because when I saw this come across my headlines on Twitter, I was not surprised. Ari, I'm sure, isn't surprised. James isn't surprised. This could have been an email.
I was pretty surprised. I mean, Patrick Beverley has been an aggressive, player in basketball, but there's no incidences here. Like with Antonio Brown, there's no surprise there. He's gone off the deep end. But with Beverley, there was nothing that, he's got no criminal record here. So assaulting your 15-year-old sister is a pretty strong step. I mean, yeah, he's the type of guy you'd want on your team but never to play against, right? I mean, that's the kind of player that Patrick Beverley was. Not a Hall of Famer, but, just a guy that grinds it out. But definitely didn't think felony assault was on the bingo card for Patrick Beverley. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there.
James?
No,
James, you know who Patrick Beverley is?
Do I? Patrick Beverley, NBA journeyman, like Taman said. Yes, I know who Patrick Beverley is, known for his defense, but underrated offensively. I was going to go and ask if you guys saw that Shedeur Sanders, when he was making his NFL debut, simultaneously his house was being burglarized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's not good.
No bueno.
There's one more, though, that could have been an email, and this is the whole CeeDee Lamb saga that's played out, basically about, if he was partying in Vegas, and the latest headline is missed Vegas curfew prompted Cowboys discipline, Lamb says. This whole entire CeeDee Lamb story could have been an email. Dude parties in Vegas before game. I mean, dudes party in every city before games, but it happens to be Vegas, and so for some reason, we've got to hear all about it, and it's the Cowboys. It's
As a Cowboys fan, I'm actually happy to see a coach literally hold players accountable, which under Mike McCarthy, Jason Garrett, Wade Phillips, never happened. So I'll take it. I'll take that email, Ari.
Yeah, I mean, you got to hold the right players accountable.
We used to not hold anyone accountable.
I mean, but also, even in the Jimmy Johnson era, he was holding certain players accountable.
Since Jimmy, we signed Greg Hardy. We don't hold anyone accountable. In Dallas, anything goes.
All right, that is our producer, Taman Turner, along with James Wesley. I am Ari Temkin. We're back on Monday for a Thanksgiving week show. Cannot wait to see all of the action this weekend, including cross-country championships, the soccer championships, basketball, men's and women's, and, of course, football. Thanks to Will Connerly. Thanks to Taman Turner. Thanks to James Wesley. Thanks to Anthony Smith, our great producer with Raycom. I'm Ari Temkin. This has been Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.